Patrick with Slooh Space Camera. We're just getting set back up. Bear with us. Should only take a few minutes here to get rolling again as we set things up again. We will be broadcasting shortly. We just had a little of an outage here, but it's coming back. Audio will be back shortly. Hold on 1 second. You may need to refresh your pages. Okay.
Can you hear me, Pat?
Yes, yes. I'm getting things back up and running again. I apologize, man. I don't know why it kicked everyone out again. But we're back. I'm just making sure it's working on the home page. You may have to refresh. Let me just see how we're looking. Yeah, it's there. So I'm going to send out a quick tweet. And we should have others coming in.
Yep, there's Bob.
Bob's back.
Paul.
I'm going to send out a quick tweet, let everyone know. Now, my hand is killing. From holding, like my mouse, this angle I got to do my mouse at is just a killer.
I wanted to give you an hour break, my friend. You can't complain.
Nah.
I know, man.
But was your presentation recorded, Bob?
No, not recorded. I could have.
Oh, that's a shame.
But I didn't. No.
That's a shame.
All right, you guys keep rolling. I'm going to do some maintenance here, if you don't mind. So,
well, then
Bob,
you know what?
take over.
Okay. Well, what we've got
I'm going to
here.
put this right here.
Oh, you have to go raise it a little bit. Can't quite see the title. There we go. A little better. There it is. The sun.
There, I'm just going to.
Sun's heartbeat. I hear
there,
that's
boss.
I hear that's one of the best science books ever written. The sun's heartbeat.
Is that good?
Who's the author of that? I can't read it.
The author. I can't read it. What was the author, Matt? Could you read that?
It says
it was
Bob
Dr.
Berlin.
Lucy Grew. Is that you like that, Bob? Yeah, Bob. You always.
You know, the
you actually
publisher,
see the
Little
writing
Brown.
there?
Yeah, well, just barely. The publisher tells me, listen, you can never give a talk and not mention your newest book. You can't do it. Don't do it.
Yeah,
In any case, let's get back to the transit because it's still cool. It's still going on. Still got another hour and a half left to chug along. And look at that image that we're looking at now. Isn't that gorgeous? Venus is so round, isn't it? Looks like a. You know what's weird about it is that a sunspot in that same position on the sun would be foreshortened because since a sunspot is on the photosphere, it has an angle to it when it's near the edge, but that the Venus doesn't. So it obviously is an intruder. It looks like something that is in front of the sun and not on the sun. So all those people who wonder about, well, how do you tell the difference between a sunspot? Boy, you couldn't mistake it, could you?
No, that's for sure.
All right, guys, I'm gonna hop off for 10 minutes.
Okay, well, we'll cover the conversation.
Yeah, you guys cover the conversation.
You know, I know from
Dan's
past experience that we've got Dan Kelson coming on. Is he ready to come on now? Because he's a great guy.
He'll be on in like 10 minutes, like 5-10 minutes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back and get him on, and then you guys can have at it again, and I'll have a little break as well. So
okay, this is good because
I'll work my breaks in.
Because Paul Cox and Matt Francis, these are brilliant guys, and we'll carry on the conversation here. In fact, I want to hear Paul express his views about what would you like to see Slooh do later this year? What kind of celestial event would you look most forward to, since you're the one who's the behind-the-scenes person here, Paul?
Well, I think it's got to be the total solar eclipse. I mean, they're just wonderful to look at, aren't they? The next one's in November, is that correct?
I don't know. I hear this one in November.
You're going to it, aren't you?
Yes.
Aren't you travelling down and taking a shoot tour with you?
Yes. Yeah, we're trying to get Pat to come too. He's non-committal about it.
I've never seen what I would consider to be a proper total eclipse. You know, where all the build-up to totality and the build down from totality has been visible. I remember one when I was at school. And then this one that you remembered very well, the date of, Bob, a number of years ago in the UK. So I would actually love to travel, but unfortunately, because I fixed up all of these partners, it means I don't have to travel. So Pat doesn't let me go anywhere, see.
I got to keep you close to the observatories. You're not allowed to travel within. You got to keep within a 500-mile radius.
All right, somebody has to take the bullet.
But I think the other thing, Bob, the other thing that I think we're long overdue for is a couple of really good comets. In the northern hemisphere, preferably. Sorry to anybody who's listening in the southern hemisphere, but we really need a couple of really nice ones up here. And actually, one of the things I'm doing, I'm not telling Pat this, but I'm setting up an ultra-wide camera and telescope for us up here on Mount Taylor at the Slooh Canary Islands Observatory, so that we can actually capture very large objects like that. And I'm talking about kind of the super comets that we've seen in the past. So I would love to see one, because I've actually never seen with my own naked eye.
Well, what about Hale-Bopp back in 1997?
I was working like an absolute navvy, and I didn't get to see it. So.
Yeah, but I don't understand, Paul. It lasted a year, and it was overhead for a whole year. How did you not get to see it?
I didn't read Sky and Telescope. I didn't read Astronomy magazine back then. It's my interest. I said a little bit earlier, I think, when you were away, Bob. My interest in astronomy, really, my childhood interest in astronomy, came back to me with the invention of go-to telescopes, when I could link up a computer, one of my great loves, to something like a telescope. And that was really when I got into it. And I bought a very early Meade LX2 robotic telescope, and on the first night I had the thing controlled by voice. So I just said Slooh to Jupiter, and that was the very first thing I ever saw through that telescope, and it amazed me. So
I think we lost Bob, Pat, or Paul. Sorry.
I bored him senseless, Matt. So Matt, I'm intrigued. How many telescopes were you using? How were you fitting between different views when we had your feed running today? Which I have to say, the images were absolutely stunning. How are you switching between different equipment, and what equipment were you using?
I have two solar telescopes. They're both made by Lunt Solar Systems. One of them is a Lunt 152, which is basically a 6-inch refractor. The other one is a Lunt 60. I have I have a LuCam planetary camera on the 152 and an imaging source planetary camera on the 60. So what I do is I run two pieces of software called LuCam Capture. I run them simultaneously. I have two different licenses for each camera. So that allows me to the smaller telescope, the 60 series. I can see virtually the entire solar disk. So it's a great way to monitor what is happening across the sun. If anything happens, such as a CME, I can quickly slew the larger telescope on and zoom on.
Right. So are these two telescopes on the same telescope mount?
Yes, they're on a saddle mount. They're on a Celestron CGEM mount that has a saddle, and that's how they're attached. They're side-by-side telescopes.
So you're actually taking, you showed us, you had a couple of problems, but you're actually taking kind of live video of the sun through these solar telescopes, these specialist solar telescopes. People shouldn't confuse these telescopes with a normal telescope, which you shouldn't point at the sun. But
Right.
then you're taking that piece of video, and what are you doing? You're extracting all of the frames from each video? What are you doing to land up with a final image?
Yeah, that's correct. As far as the still images are concerned, I can specify the number of frames I want to take in the video. And of course, I have to be careful because with this type of event, because it's a transitory event and the Venus is moving into the solar limb, I don't want to take a video that's, for example, 1,000 frames long and lasts 5 minutes, because it wouldn't be very
You'll get
easy to
some
make a still
blurred
image.
motion, will you, over the...
Exactly.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
And
So
this
the
is what we're seeing. We're seeing in your, behind you, in your Google Hangout feed, we're seeing an extract of one of those videos, are we?
yeah, and it's a good example of what happens when it gets really windy here in Arizona. My solar observatory is a roll-off roof observatory, so the entire roof rolls off, and it's great for solar observing 90% of the time. But today it was very windy, and you can see Venus just jumping around all over the place. But still, I was still able to extract the in-focus frames from this video and stack them and make a still picture and upload it to Slooh.
That's great. Hey, guys, I want to introduce our next guest, Dan Kelson from the Carnegie Institution of Science.
Hello,
Hi,
everybody.
Dan.
Hi.
Dan, how's it going, man?
It's going good. I hope you can hear me. Let me see if I can adjust my volume if you cannot.
I can hear you.
Ooh, okay, great. It's good to be here. I'm actually glad I got to see this through a small telescope this afternoon. Right at 3:06, they set some out. It was nice. So even though I spent a lot of time looking through big telescopes, every once in a while, real astronomy happens right in our backyard. It's great.
I was saying earlier, actually, that this is Paul Cox speaking, that the majority of astronomers nowadays never get to look through a telescope. They're either, using a telescope with a camera on the back of it, or they're operating a telescope which is on the top of a mountain somewhere, and they're miles away.
And while I'm still fortunate enough to go to the telescope to use it, it's true there are big cameras on the back end. And what's worse, I have to say what's even worse, is when I go, I would say half the time I forget to go in the dome and actually see the telescope. which is you realize that when you've left the mountain, you think, hey, I didn't actually go and see the telescope.
I didn't see it.
It could have been a black box in there with a slide projector, and someone's just, a little gnome or gremlin is flipping and changing the pictures and giving you fake data. You just forget to look at the telescope sometimes. And so it's nice when something like this happens, you go outside, it's real astronomy, it connects you with this, this vast history that's been built up over the ages using events like this, right? I study distant galaxies, and that's great, but when you can go and do something like this, what does that mean? It ties you directly to the kinds of things that were done hundreds of years ago. It's exciting.
This is kind of it's tactile astronomy, isn't it?
That's right. That's right. And it's exactly that. It's not only tactile. It reminds you why we should all be glad that we live on a planet that does not have an atmosphere like Venus. I mean, apart from the fact that it's hot and the pressures are bad. But I mean, we have clear skies, right? I mean, pity the poor souls who live on a planet that's full of clouds like Venus. You can't look up and see transits. You can't discover. I don't even know how you would discover the laws of physics if you didn't live on a planet.
You wouldn't see a star. You wouldn't see anything. You wouldn't even see the sun, would you? You wouldn't.
No.
You'd know that there was a heat source and a light source close to you. But
Could you measure the circumference of your planet? Probably not. Could you discover what was causing your tides if you were lucky enough to have the oceans? Right? Could you discover you know, all sorts of things. The scale of the universe you lived on. No, so you get an event like this, and you're just connected immediately to, you know, the real scale and scope of physics, of, you know, the history of the laws of motion. It's just exciting. Sorry, I'm just babbling because it's.
No, keep going, Dad. Great.
It's fascinating.
This is fascinating.
But it's
No,
true.
that's very interesting, and you bring up a good point about the laws of physics and our understanding of them. That's a good point about Venus, but even about Earth. If Earth could endure for another 4 billion years or so, the expansion of the universe will have moved everything so far, with the exception of the local group of galaxies, out that our understanding of our universe would be completely different than it is now.
Absolutely. It's quite a special time. In fact, we live in such a special time where the acceleration of the universe due to dark energy is more or less the same order of magnitude as the gravitational pull of all of the matter and energy density. So we're able to essentially measure both the dark matter content of the universe and the dark energy content of the universe. And as you say, in 4 billion years, it would be very difficult to measure the dark matter content of the universe, but you could sure get the dark energy. But that's it.
Right.
So it's quite a special time to measure all sorts of things about our universe.
Hey, is that Dan? Is that Dan?
Hi, I have a lot less hair now than I used to.
It was only a few years ago. Yeah.
Well, you know, 2 children. Sorry. Of course, they're watching you.
2 children will do it. Look. 2 children will do it.
I thought that was the flying. I thought that's flying in a rickety airplane that does that.
No, you're looking good, Dan. Good seeing you.
It's good to see you. You've got a nice big image on my screen, so that's great.
And that airplane isn't so rickety. I've been in it. It's very nice.
Well, thank you.
I haven't. I'm being unfair. It's true.
Well, you know what? When you come east with the family, if you want to put their lives at risk.
Maybe one at a time, or my wife and I will fly separately. I don't know how we should do that.
There's a bunch of pilots on this hangout. Yeah, Paul's a pilot. I'm a pilot.
Wow.
Anyone else a pilot? Matt, are you a pilot?
It's self-selecting, right?
I'm a pilot only of my car.
Yeah, I think Matt's got fast cars, I think. So.
No, you know what Matt did? We met because I was giving a talk, Dan, out at NIST, you know, the National Institute of Science and Technology. I was giving a talk for them, and he was in the audience. We hung out afterward, and I said, well, you know, come visit me sometime. He drove across country in a race car last year. What was it?
That's
a race car. What race car was it?
It's a Roush 427 track pack Mustang that has been modified to have, I haven't had it dyno tested yet, but it should have approximately 600 horsepower to the rear wheels. And it has a full roll cage, full racing harness. I do race the car out at Salt Lake. Yeah, so it made for a very quick and enjoyable trip out to see Bob. I was able to relax and enjoy his company at his house. He was very gracious, and then I was back home before I knew it.
Oh, jeez, that's great. So you guys,
Pat, before you go on, can I just give a very short update on the image feeds?
Please do.
People may have noticed we've had some absolutely fantastic images from the University of Mexico since the beginning of the transit, but they've now lost the sun. So that feed is coming to an end. We're still getting some lovely images from somebody emailed me this. We were talking about pronunciation earlier, and it's Haleakala. Haleakala.
I've been there. That's a great place.
So we're still getting some lovely images from them, but there is one image that I'd like to point out to you at the moment, which is from Broome in Australia. Anthony Wesley has been imaging since the sun rose for him about 22:30 UTC, and his image at the moment is just—it's lovely. It's a little rectangular image, but it's got Venus there, and it's got a small sunspot, which has got such a lot of fine detail on it. It's just a simple, lovely image of showing us what this event's doing. We are also hoping. We spoke to Mount John Observatory in New Zealand earlier from the University of Canterbury. They were snowed off, but actually they're opening up the observatory, and they are hoping to get online and give us some images a little bit later on. And we're still getting some great images through from Freddie Williams in Oahu.
Oahu.
Is that it?
Wahoo! Go Hawaii!
I'll never get it right. And he's been doing an absolutely sterling job as well. But he has told us that he has got the threat of rain, so we may be losing that feed. And I believe Japan has also been lost because of rain. But you'll see in the Hangout that we've still got our very own live feed from the Sydney Observatory in Australia. Right. They've laid this on especially for us. The Pat might actually click on it so it turns big in the Hangout so everybody can see it. But it's the live video that you can see in the Hangout. So thank you.
That's great. Thanks for that update. And Dan, let me ask Dan something because this guy's great. When I was up at the Las Campañas some years ago, he gave me a great line for an article later. He was looking at galaxies, and he said, "This thing, I'm measuring 4,000 galaxies at once." He said, "It's an all-you-can-eat kind of a thing." An all-you-can-eat kind of thing. I love that. So Dan, why don't you talk about anything astronomical that this transit reminds you of, or doesn't remind you of, for our listeners? Anything that interests you, Dan?
Dan, can you hear us?
His microphone is off.
Dan, is your microphone off?
Yeah, check at the top of the page there. See to make sure it's on. Your microphone, right on the top of the screen there. Make sure the mute isn't on.
Yeah, he said it's on. I mean, I can see. I'm a lip reader.
Are you really?
No. But I got that part.
Amongst many other talents.
Dan, if you're having problems, you may want to log out and come back in. So Bob, why don't you take over for a little bit while Dan comes back? Okay,
well, we are now in our last maybe hour and a half of the transit. It's been a very, very exciting transit. I'm very proud of Slooh having been able to get all these feeds from all these places. It doesn't matter that some places were snowed out, cloud out. We've had over a dozen live feeds. We've watched Venus parade across the sun, and we know that nobody who's living is going to ever see this again. So those of us who are here, it's almost like a fraternity. And those of you who are here joining us, you listeners and you viewers, thank you. It's like we're all together in this. And Dan, are you with us now with the audio?
Here we go. Let's try this. Did this work? Am I back?
Yeah,
hello?
I can hear you. Not as good, but we can hear you.
Yeah, I switched. There we go.
That's good. That's good now.
Great. They're a little too loud, probably. I think I've switched cameras, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, we see you as a still right now, so.
There you go. Now you're moving. Okay, go ahead. Proceed, Dan.
I switched cameras. I knew there was a reason I grabbed two cameras, just to be sure I had a backup, but I don't know if I have a third. So this actually over here I might have another one. So this afternoon at work here, out in the courtyard, which you can't see, one of the people here at Carnegie set up some small refractors, and one had a nice solar blank filter, neutral density filter. Another one had a nice H-alpha filter, hydrogen blind filter, which was beautiful to look through. Now, I haven't looked at the sun through a telescope since I was, 10 years old. No, really, because I had a small refractor, and of course, at some point, you graduate to bigger telescopes, and you stop looking at the sun because you just don't have stuff to do it anymore. And I used to, when I was a boy, actually go out and look at the sun, and you know what? You forget. I mean, yes, intellectually, it's this big ball of gas, and it's, of course, you only go at night, like the old joke says, right? So it's terribly catastrophic on the surface, right? It's the apocalypse at all times. And you look through a telescope, you see it. But you don't see that without a telescope, right? So you can see the little prominences, and you can see the film. the convection on the surface when you're looking through the hydrogen profile. You just see it. And as we said earlier, this is a sensory field. When you can get out and look through a telescope, it's tactile. You get that sense of the textures. And really, it's been years since I've done that. Yeah, I look at the moon with my son through his small telescope, and yes, that has a surface to it, that has some texture to it. But the sun itself, right? It's the thing that gives us everything, right? Life. It's all our energy, right? So you look at it, and it's alive with flame and heat. Well, flame's the wrong word, but you know what I'm saying. It's amazing. Anyway, so it's just one of those rare events. Again, another lifetime or two before it happens again, and I'll never get to do it. But it's just amazing to see things so close you can grab them. It's just phenomenal.
Isn't that great? Don't you love this guy, guys? Isn't he great? Did you hear what he said? It's the apocalypse at all times. Isn't that great?
I don't know about that, but it's just that it's you can, well, you wouldn't touch it, but you could reach out and you get the dimensionality of it, right? That's what's great about looking through telescopes at the sun, the moon, the planets. You can adjust the focus, you get the depth of the object. And, I look through big telescopes, I love it, but you don't get that sense of the real physicality of stuff until you go outside and you look at an event like this, and it's just amazing, right? A whole planet passing between us and the sun. It's just great.
What time is it where you are? Where are you, Dan? What time of day is it?
It is 7:46 p.m. or something like that in my office in Pasadena.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you can still hear me, but it's 7:45 in Pasadena. So, so that's enough about Venus. I mean, that just still blows my mind that if we lived on it, we'd never learn anything. But but what's nice is
Yeah, it's like the House of Representatives.
I can't wait to hear that. You mean the apocalypse at all times?
No, I mean Venus.
Oh. Totally open.
Oh, that's good. You guys are funny.
Well,
Yeah, popcorn. Yeah, that and our friends in Europe. So, you guys, what we're going to see here? We're going near the end here, as you can see on the feeds on Slooh, where the Venus is making its way out from the sun. Right now, is that right, Bob? What's going on?
Well, we want to look for the black drop because this is the thing that twisted the minds of so many people in the 18th and 19th centuries. They tried to make timings. That's what the whole thing was about. The whole business was when exactly was Venus tangent to the inside of the sun. And this got totally messed up because just as Venus got to the edge, like a drop of water, like a strait, like a canal, like a black ink drop, looked like it came from space toward Venus to meet it. And so I want to see this happen directly. This is a diffraction effect that any of our listeners or viewers can do right now. If you put your hand up and close one eye, try it, and put your hand against a bright object, like facing a bright wall, close one eye, and bring your fingers closer and closer together very slowly. It's important to do this. And then you'll see that before your fingers touch, before they quite touch, there'll be a black something, a mysterious black something that goes from one finger to the other and makes contact before the fingers have made contact. Now this is I believe, a diffraction effect, and that's exactly what Venus is going to do with outer space when it reaches the edge of the sun. It was a confounding phenomenon, and we're going to witness it very soon.
Just mind the gap. That's right. So that gap just disappears. It's pretty amazing to do that. I like doing that. I still do that. I'm 43 years old, but I still occasionally say, my goodness, look at that. That's just amazing. So this afternoon, when we had ingress and Venus actually, started doing what it was supposed to do, I just missed the black drop at that moment. By a minute or 10 seconds or something, I don't know, but I missed it. So it'll be nice to get a feed of it now. I think.
Okay, and I hope one of our people provides that precise moment of feed, and then we can all take pictures of it and remind people for the next 105 years that the black drop is real, just like that little thing between our fingers is real. Dan, what are you working on these days at Carnegie? I know it's not a secret.
It's a terrible secret. You remember, so at Las Campanas, when you came and visited, I described how I was observing thousands of galaxies at a time. And so we have on one of our large telescopes, this is the Bada telescope at Magellan. It's a 6.5 meter primary mirror, so you're talking pretty hefty size. And it gives us a wide field of view to study distant galaxies, to do surveys of the night sky. And just to give you an idea, we can collect spectra and disperse the light from thousands of galaxies at once over a piece of the sky the size of a full moon. And that's how we can do thousands of galaxies at once. And if I can collect little tiny spectra to get the blue light, the red light, the green light, and see features in the spectra from the hydrogen lines and from the calcium lines and the iron lines, then I can measure the Doppler shifts of those features and measure essentially the cosmological distances to all of these galaxies. And if I can do this in a number of pieces of the sky, I can build up a pretty good picture of what the universe looked like 7 billion years ago, or actually all the way back to 9 billion years ago. And by looking then at thousands of galaxies, hopefully about 150,000 galaxies, from a time when the universe was a third of its current age, galaxies look different then. And I can go in steps and look at different epochs in the universe and understand how did galaxies go from looking like they did then to looking like they do today. Are there more today? Are they more massive? Was there more merging that was going on to build up today's galaxies? And there are lots of surveys that are doing this, but ours is particularly comprehensive. And the one that I'm doing, that I've been doing for several years now, we've been very careful to go and target galaxies in as unbiased a way as possible to really get an assessment, an accurate assessment, a census of the amount of mass in stars from that epoch till today. And it's very difficult, it's tricky, and it's unbelievably fun. It's probably been, so far it's been 80 nights on that particular telescope, another 50 nights between the 4-meter telescopes at Kitt Peak and Cerro Tololo, using their infrared camera, and a whole bunch of optical data from a range of other telescopes. So it's really marrying a tremendous number of data sets and new data products in a way that just hasn't really been done before. Woo-hoo.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah,
that
we
was
love
pretty,
it. We love it. That was great.
That was great, man. That was awesome. That was great.
You're supposed to say that when I'm actually done, not when. Anyway, we've gotten a couple
mind
of results.
blown. I was like, my mind almost exploded. I love it. So, you guys,
is there any preliminary results that surprise you?
You know, actually, I have to say nothing that's surprising yet. But one of the things that our large data set allows us to do is look at the census of galaxies in new ways. In particular, I'm trying to understand how a galaxy's nearby environment affects how it evolves, or how a population of galaxies evolves. That is, there are certain kinds of galaxies and environments where there are lots of galaxies, very dense environments like clusters of galaxies, where most of those galaxies aren't forming stars anymore. Most of them are pretty dead. They have very red colors. And then when you go out into sort of the tenuous parts of the universe where there aren't that many galaxies, you have the blue star-forming galaxies and almost no dead galaxies, that sort of thing. And I'm trying to understand how these different environments really play a role in shutting off star formation at late times in the universe. 10 billion years ago, the universe as a whole was forming a lot of stars. Today, well, it's not a very active place. I mean, the universe as a whole, it's pretty astounding. And so if we can try to understand how the growth of large-scale structure in the universe interplays with the decline of star formation in the universe as a whole, I think then we'll really learn about whether we understand what's going on in the universe. And one of the results we had, I think a few months ago, 6 months ago, was really the first illustration of what we call the hierarchical growth of galaxy groups and galaxy clusters in the universe. That is, today with our data, we were able to make the first measurements of the numbers of groups and clusters of galaxies today, and the numbers of groups and clusters of galaxies 3 billion years ago, and 6 billion years ago, and 7 billion years ago, and we could see that the amount of evolution of groups and clusters in their abundance, in the numbers that we see, really depends on the masses of the group. There are more really massive groups and clusters today than there were, say, 6 or 7 billion years ago. But the rate of evolution was very rapid for those very, very high mass groups and clusters. And those are the places that really start to shut down star formation in the universe and in the galaxies that live there. And so if we can really understand, the next step now is to actually go and measure the rates of star formation in all of these galaxies, which we're doing. And then we can try to understand directly how does the growth of groups, 10 billion years ago, galaxies weren't in as many groups as they are today. And the groups today, on average, are more massive. So we're getting what we call hierarchical growth of structure. That is, you build big structures out of little structures. Little structures had to form first in the universe, thanks to cold dark matter. And out of those little structures, they merge together to form bigger structures, bigger groups, bigger clusters. And so since we now have direct measurements of that growth of structure, merging of little things to bigger things, we can then go and directly say, how much did that affect the amount of star formation in the universe? And that's the exciting next step. Haven't done it yet, but it's exciting.
Well, Dan, you definitely have, I think, blown our audience away with it. I love the details you've provided on this stuff. It's a nice change of pace about talking about Venus and the Sun.
Well, but now you can ask me questions because I just spouted gibberish for 10 minutes. And so now I need someone to bring me down to earth and explain the terms that I use that don't make sense.
Well, now we know why you're getting those gray hairs on your beard.
Exactly.
I have something I can actually show you. So in order to do this work, we had to build a new prism for this spectrograph that we're using. This is the Inamori Magellan aerial camera and spectrograph at Magellan. It's really the only instrument of its kind in the world. Again, it can give us data over an extent of the sky like the full moon. And we had to build a new prism. Now I'm going to show you this piece of glass. You may be able to see it. In fact, you can see through it. So if I turn it sideways, you can actually see that there is something here. All right? This is about 5 pounds. This thing in my hand. It's very heavy, actually. And don't ask me what kind of glass it is. I completely forgot. But we made a new prism that's actually 8 of these glued together. All right, so then it's basically a block of glass about this big, and it weighs about 50 pounds. So now you get the scale of the sort of optics that have to go into modern instrumentation. Right? I mean, a 50-pound block of glass. It's not like any prism you've ever seen before. In fact, the faces of it are almost parallel to each other, so it looks more like a cube of glass. And yet it actually acts like a prism. It disperses the light just a little bit, right? Just a little bit, which is what we need, just a little bit of dispersion. And it's just, you have an instrument that's got to hold a 50-pound block of glass, swing it into place. It's got to hold big pieces of metal that are the aperture plates to let in the light for the galaxies we want.
Do you use a slit? Is there a slit with that?
Yes, in fact, well, there's a mask, a big, you know what, I don't have an example here. Hold on a second.
Hey, Matt, you must love this stuff. I'm talking to Matt Francis. He's got to love this stuff because he loves instruments.
Yeah, okay. Daniel has a lot of energy. This is great.
So what I have here, this is what we call a slit mask, but from a different camera and a different telescope. So this is one from about not 20 years ago, 17 years ago, something like that, from when I did my PhD at the University of California at Santa Cruz. I was using the Keck telescopes, which were new at the time, with a spectrograph there that could take spectra of many galaxies at once. By many, I mean 30, maybe 50 if you were really aggressive. Now I'm going to try to hold this up. This is you can see all of these little slits in this metal. So this sits at the front of the instrument. All this metal blocks out the light from the sky, and you have these little apertures, these little slits that you have on individual galaxies that lets in the light. And so by doing this and then dispersing the light, having a detector on the back side, you get spectra for each of these holes. Okay? Now, Keck is a telescope that's 10 meters in diameter, primary, particular F ratio, and so this gives a field of view that's about, well, let's see, this length, the long side, is about 8 arc minutes, right? So that's, well, you know, it's, you know, the full moon is 30 arc minutes roughly, and so with Magellan and the Bada telescope and the Inamori Magellan aerial camera and spectrograph, we have a piece of metal that's actually, it's about a meter across, maybe a bit more than a meter across, and it's curved, and we would have, say, 2,000, 3,000, maybe 4,000 holes in it, like these, only a little bit smaller, okay? So, and then, of course, each of those little holes has to fall on galaxies, and you got to get that right.
So you photograph the field first, and then this is custom made.
That's correct, and we have our own machinery to make them.
Hey guys, I gotta jump in here. We're gonna jump off in a quick second. I gotta grab another guest. Dan, why don't you hang out with it? Do you have time to hang for a little bit?
Yeah, I have a little bit more time.
Yeah, because we got I got another guest I'm going to bring on that's live from a brewery in Michigan. But before we do that, even, I just want to point out that the broadcast tonight is supported by the members of Slooh. And if you haven't already checked it out, click that membership link on the corner of slooh.com. And you'll notice today only for the transit, we have a special deal available to everyone. If you sign up for a yearly and 2-year membership to Slooh, you'll get a free Meade telescope. So it's a really nice deal, and we actually put together a demo for everyone of the telescope, as well as what you get out of Slooh. Paul Cox, our engineer, has done that right below on the Hangout box here on the slooh.com homepage, so please check that out. And again, the membership, we do a lot of shows. Obviously the big ones like the Transit of Venus are no-brainer, but we do a lot of different events. Comets, we research planets, we have people from all over come on, experts like Dan talking to us about fascinating stuff, and I'd love to have Dan on again to talk about galaxies and stuff when we're running missions, because there's a lot to learn in the universe, and most of us out there just don't take the time to do it, really, and we try to bring it to you live, so that's what Slooh's all about. So please do consider a membership. If you can't afford the membership, a contribution of any amount is much appreciated, because it does help support the costs involved with putting this broadcast on live. Guys, I'm going to invite in a friend of ours who runs and operates the transitvenus.org website, Chuck Buter, and Chuck is going to come on, and he's going to do a live broadcast from the Library Brew House in Michigan. So I think Dan, you'd be a good to have around with your energy. I'm curious to see how this goes down. It might be a little noisy, but I think it's going to liven us all up. So if you can hang out, Dan, really quick, I appreciate it. Hold on one sec.
Sure.
We're going to go to the brewery.
We're going live to a brewery.
Really there.
Well, we could. You could probably do it if you jump in your sports car. You could probably get there.
My sports car.
And Matt, I think you were just showing us the black drop, weren't you?
Yes. You can see the video images, I hope, above my head there.
Yes,
I don't know what that is. That was not me.
Yeah, I don't know. It might have been Mr. Cox in the background. But
Okay.
anyway, go ahead. Go ahead.
This is
So can you guys see the effect, the actual black drop effect on your screens? I can see it on mine.
wow. Wow.
Yeah, it's really clear. If you go to the Slooh.com homepage, it's a lot clearer than our G Plus Hangout that we're looking through. There's a lot of reasons for that, but if you, Bob, just if you're looking, I don't know, Bob, if you can do that or not, but I'm just letting you know.
And what Daniel was saying about looking through a telescope, my family's here. I've had friends here, and currently my telescope in the dome is set up. There's 3 telescopes there: a large reflecting telescope and 2 refractors. All of them have cameras on them. There are no eyepieces on any of them because, I'm either trying to take pictures or do science, and you certainly lose some of the romance and beauty of looking through a telescope when you look at a computer screen. There's nothing that beats seeing it, so to speak, live through an eyepiece. And I think that's an important part of astronomy, is to keep that beauty alive for people.
Absolutely. I mean, we definitely agree with that, and we're trying to get people in connection with both astronomy, but understanding, there's the difficulties that go about it, and I think that's what's neat about Slooh is you have the opportunity to do it both, go outside and experience that as well as doing it from the comfort of your home as well and see it live and do some, control some scopes that are not easily accessible for most individuals. So that's what's kind of fun too. So, but I agree with you too. Going outside and experience it is a whole different experience.
Well, there's something about having a small telescope where you have to adjust the focus manually, right? Because even having a camera on a small telescope, you can change the focus, but getting that interplay between what your eye is getting and the direction that you're changing the focus and panning through the layers of an object, right? Through the depth of an object. That's the thing that really grabs you, right? And you can't do that with a 1-meter telescope. And now you want to see the pictures from a 1-meter telescope. You want to see the pictures from a 7-meter telescope and a 24-meter telescope. But you can't ever get the depth of it with your hands and your brain, and it's just different.
You can't ever get the depth of it no matter what, I think. And
some things you can.
Well, here we go. I'm going to be inviting in Chuck really quick here, guys, so hold on. Chuck, you should be seeing this if you're listening. I'm hoping you get this. You should. This is the second time I've invited him, so hopefully he'll come in. So Bob, you got a split, Matt?
Yeah, I got to sign out for a little bit. My daughter's making us some fish tacos, and all this talk about breweries, I'm going to go have a Corona and a fish taco.
Okay.
Don't torture me, man. Don't be doing that to me. Jeez.
Daniel, it was good to see you. Thanks for coming on.
It was good to see you. Hope to see you again.
And Bob
Dan,
and Patrick, I'll be back.
Okay, Matt.
Okay.
I would appreciate
Bye-bye.
that. So, yeah, Daniel, we got to have you back on for a Galaxy event, man. This would be awesome. I mean, serious. You got to come on, man. We'll do one.
Well, that'll be fun. That'll be fun. I mean, I had a beer this afternoon, but I think I'm about to learn that I had the wrong beer. Is this guy coming on soon to tell us what I should have been drinking?
Yeah, I'm trying to. Hold on. He's Hold on one sec, guys. Hold on one sec. I don't know why it's not happening for us. But Bob, why don't you jump in and talk to us about something unique?
Well, okay. Let's review some of the
Chuck.
wild transit things we've talked about. We've talked about the sun's manufacturing vitamin D and how we shouldn't be hiding from it, that the sun is our friend. We've talked about how very unique and weird Venus is, that its mountain tops seem to get some kind of snows on them or deposits of maybe a type of lead. Very weird place. We've noticed that Venus is the slowest spinning object in the known universe, that it the 19th century, when the world was obsessed with transits, and it was a very dangerous and expensive thing, and you had to travel, and all to just figure out the sun's distance. That was the whole thing, to know the scale of the solar system, and that the world was united. That was before the United Nations and before international efforts like the ISS that we have orbiting Earth. It was the very first global initiative that happened in the 18th century, when those pairs of transits were inspired over a dozen expeditions from a dozen countries to just find one number, a single number, and that is the parallax of the sun, so we could know its distance. And those were the days, weren't they?
Well, I certainly wasn't around then, but maybe I know a couple of people here who would be intelligent enough for me to suggest it. But, you know, astronomy for a long time goes through these stages where it is about one number. And it's always having to do with the scale of the universe, the scale of the place that we live, the next big scale. So, yeah, the distance to the sun has always been critical. And then when
So what's the number today, Dan? What is the one big number you'd like to know?
Well, you know, that's so for many years it was what's the expansion rate of the universe? What's the Hubble constant, right? And we know that really well now. Maybe not as well as we'd like to, but we know it well enough to go on and say what is the next number. So we've learned over the last 20 years up through the last couple of years, we've learned the expansion rate of the universe, the Hubble constant. We've learned the dark matter content of the universe. We've learned the dark energy content of the universe, but we don't know much about dark energy. So now we're trying to understand the equation of state of the dark energy. So that's the number du jour, right? And the world, as you say, international collaboration, going for one number. That's the number today that we're all going for, that everyone's trying to get.
The dark energy. The dark energy.
What we say is the equation of state of dark energy. We want to know, is it just a simple, well, it gets complicated. Don't make me talk about it. I want to learn about beer.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes. Chuck, welcome. Finally, you got in. I'm glad to see that you got in.
Man.
It's great. We appreciate it. Chuck, I want to make sure I pronounce your last name right, because is it Buter? Buter?
Correct. That's good.
Okay, good. Good. So Chuck, I'm going to give you a quick intro. Chuck owns and operates the transitofvenus.org site. He is part of an organization in Michigan. You got to tell us more about everyone was dying to know what kind of the beer you guys are brewing and what you guys are up to with the keg and everything else you've been working on over there at the Trove. Can you just give us a quick overview of what's going on out there?
Yeah, well, Trove is our acronym for Transit of Venus, and we are at the Livery Microbrewery in Benton Harbor, Michigan. And they brewed a Venusian ale, and it is really tasty. They also have a separate barrel that they put into a wooden barrel, kind of got a nice punky flavor to it, and it's flowing. Let me tell you, it's going down right now. We had clear weather here. It was fabulous. I can't tell you how good it was. And
so yeah, tell us about what you guys were looking at when you were looking at the transit. You had what kind of scopes were you using?
Well, it's fun because we had regular scopes, and then other people brought some concoctions around. They had their strange different ways of projecting it, and we had hydrogen alpha telescopes and just simple little 4-inch reflectors and nice refractors with rear screen projections. One of the things we were doing were some sun funnels. A sun funnel is a rear projection device that allows you to look at the sun, and it's a projection without anybody having to have any risk of getting their eye in there. So that was another tool that we had on site. But the weather was just gorgeous here. And one of the things I was really happy about was how many people could see with the naked eye. That was readily apparent. And so there was much celebration going on. We had hundreds of people that showed up at about 5 sites around town, and then we finished up at Lake Michigan, over at the Warren Dunes, overlooking Lake Michigan. And when the sun went down on a beautiful day on Lake Michigan, we looked for the green flash, and then we bolted to the brewery.
Where do you have this brewer? Can you show us the brewery? The brew? Do you have a brew by you? That you can
Yeah,
show us?
what we got going on behind us? Hey, somebody calling a brewer over here.
Yeah.
Get the brewer away from the taps. Hey,
We
right
need to
now,
understand what's in this stuff.
yeah, Chris, get the brewer. Get the brewer. Get the brewer. All right, but first, before I get the brewer here, brewer is pouring and drinking. Hey, things have been flowing for a while here. We started with our celebration at about 12:15. The first people were showing up. We had a family come in from across the country. Irvin Stanley was on the expeditions in 1874 and 1882 to Kerguelen Island and Patagonia. And so the whole Irvin Stanley descendants came here. The U.S. Naval Observatory sent us a bunch of artifacts that were on display. And so we watched the transit of Venus with the descendants of the assistant photographer from those expeditions. It was pretty cool.
Wow.
That is
So, but right here, standing behind me, I've got we're at the art exhibit. I'm just going to scan a little bit and walk past some of the art. In the brewery on the mezzanine level, they've got an art exhibit. And so just giving you an idea of some of the artwork that people have done. That was Barb Miller, and then right here is going to be Jay Ryan.
Yeah, hold it.
Here's a favorite. Hey, you got to check this one. This one's funky here. Dig that. Okay.
These are all transit theme, right? These are all the themes of the transit. So.
Yeah, check that out. I'm going to try to come in close, and you can see that they're observing the transit there. This is by George Millett. So that was a real favorite. Let me tell you, this is really fabulous after you've had a few of the Venusian ales, too. So it's...
that almost sounds like something out of Star Trek, you know? It has that kind of a... I swear I heard Captain Kirk once said he was drinking that or something.
Oh, yeah, there. You don't have to go very far, and there they are. Yeah, so look at the color on this stuff. Where'd it go?
Man. Jeez.
Yeah, man.
Bob, how does that look, man? Bob, are you a beer drinker?
No, I've never had a beer in my life, actually.
Oh, come on.
That stopped everybody cold. I shouldn't have said that, but it's
Well, you'll be a kind word when you have
If that was true, you would never come back on the show again. You'd never be invited back.
I mean, I'm glad you guys obviously enjoy it. It just never tasted good to me. Beer always just tasted bad.
Well, that's okay. You know what? There's also a Chasing Venus wine from the Marlborough country in New Zealand, and we've got a couple of cases of that around here, too.
Oh, did they? All right.
Yeah.
But I have a question for you. How do you go from Venus, the transit of Venus, to brewing beer? Tell me that connection. How did that start?
Actually, we did it in 2004 with the Mishawaka Brewing Company. And then yesterday, there's a Transit of Venus Real Ale competition in Jeremiah Horrocks' hometown in Much-Hoole. Actually, David Henkel is doing it in Preston, I believe, is where it started. So the ale competition, the brewers are going to have their recipes put into a time capsule for future generations, and the recipes are going to be manufactured by not manufactured, but crafted by other breweries. The winning recipe, I guess it is. So those recipes all are going into a time capsule for a future reference.
That's great.
This is not this is a G-rated hangout here, but this is not the only reference to alcohol in the Transit of Venus. You realize?
No, tell us more.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
I mean, you know that Jeremiah Horrocks died when he was only 21 or 22.
Yeah, barely made it into legal age, unfortunately for Jeremiah. But there are others like Pingray. Okay, so Pingray, he's French. And his island that he's on is getting bombed by the English during the 7 Years' War, and he gets taken hostage. And so Pingray ends up making friends with the ship's medical doctor. And on the ship, they're there, and they get into the medicinal supplies. And Pingray's famous quote is, "Liquor gives us the strength for determining the distance from the Earth to the Sun."
All right, man. That's great. So, Dan, do you have any questions about the brew that they're serving, or what's on your mind right now?
Well, I want to see them again.
What, the beers?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the beers look really good, man. I have to say, it's been tough. It's been a long day already for me.
No.
Oh, it's been a long day, all right. Here, we just got some folks that are milling around in the brewery, but you said you wanted to see the color of it.
Yeah, let's see it. Let's look at this again.
Oh, one's just getting delivered to me right now.
The Venetian.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh,
Venusian.
look at that. That looks good, guys. That looks good.
Oh,
but
that's nice. I need one of those. I'll have to settle for something I have at home.
I think the next transit, I'm going to do a live one from the brewery. Oh,
All right.
shoot. It's too late, man. I can't do it. What's the next event we could do from the brewery? That's another show we got to do.
Well, why don't
that one.
would you settle for a transit of Mercury?
Yeah.
No,
Can we do it?
because then we got to wait till 16. So that's waiting too long. We don't want to wait that long.
Yeah, that's way too long, Bob. We got to do something sooner. Well,
Simpler.
I'm sure
Yeah.
it's something. We'll look at the calendar, the celestial calendar, and come up with a brew that we can. How long did it take them to brew the brew itself?
How long did it take you to brew the brew? Brew the brew. How many? It was at least 3 months in the process. And, we had to sample some beers just to make sure we're getting the right flavors and what we were looking for. And so that was a process. You got to practice and see if it's the right mix. It's got a bunch of Michigan red wheat, I recall, and some honey, a bunch of honey. That was kind of surprising, and some Belgium hops in it. So it's a little bit of a weedy, yeasty beer. It's fabulous though, and there's only a limited supply. When it's gone, it's gone. Now they don't bottle it. I'm sorry to say.
Oh, now you're sorry to say.
Oh, come on.
No, but that was part of the upside downside. I'm just going to show you some more of the brewery down below there. It's kind of like the downside is that they don't bottle it. You can only get it in growlers and kegs, and the upside is, honey, I can only get it by a keg. So, all right. So there's the. We got some Vinicius Akima is our musical artist tonight, and later on, how in past centuries some of the astronomers have talked about how the flowers will be blooming in June, and your children's children will see this next time. So we thought, well, let's do a time capsule, but instead of a time capsule, we've got a time keg. So we've been all day long. People have been writing notes, and we've got some memorabilia that we're going to be putting into this time keg and sealing it up at 12:50 at Fourth Contact tonight.
All right.
Nice.
There's you have Bob. Bob, are you able to see the feeds on the Slooh.com homepage at all, or no?
No, I can't. No, not from here.
Oh man, there's some really cool. If you guys can get to the Norway feed, it's really cool. There's some
You
clouds
can't put
there.
that up. You can't put that up. Pat?
Yeah, let me see if I can screen share. Hold on.
Yeah, that looks very nice.
Here, can you see that?
Yes, I see that.
Did it go in?
Yes.
No.
Yeah, I see it.
Oh wait,
That's
here.
nice.
So what's happening in Norway?
Look at that.
Oh, nice.
Well, we have one of our feed partners out there is providing a live feed of the transit. You can see it if you look on your Hangout window right there. You should see
Nice. Yeah, very nice. Very nice.
it. You can see it. Those are clouds rolling in there. Let me see. Here we go. Anyway, so Chuck, how long? Is this an all-nighter for you out there? Or are you?
Oh yeah. Well, it's going to be at least until in our time zone. I'm in the Eastern time zone, so we're going to be going until 11:50 a.m. when we're going to be sealing up the time keg.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Hey, can I take you down to the? Hey, can I
keep
go
going.
somewhere else? Go somewhere else. Take me off your audio, and I'm gonna go down and we'll pull one for you down below here.
All right, cool. I'll pull it up. No, mute. All right, so Dan,
Got me
Do you have any?
thirsty.
I mean, you're
I'm
welcome
gonna
to
have
hang out as long as you like, but I don't want to keep you up all night.
I gotta drive home and get a beer.
I know, man.
Oh,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry to do that to you because I feel the same way.
Oh, that's rough.
But Dan, I appreciate you coming on. If you know, I'd love to have you on other future shows. It would be fun with you and Bob at the same time, even because you guys are both really dynamic, and it adds a lot.
Well, it's actually been really nice. I haven't seen Bob in a while. It's good to hear your voice. It's good to see you again. You look great. And I really appreciate having a chance to, just share my excitement about seeing this transit, seeing it in our.
Oh, it's so infectious. Well, that's the thing about you, Dan. You have so much happy energy and knowledge combined. So it's a shame not to share you with. We probably have over 1 million people here watching tonight. So
I think you have to say 1 million.
1 million.
No, this is
very good.
I really appreciate it.
But I'll tell you,
All right,
I'll never again admit around a group of guys that I've never had a beer. I realize that falls flat on its face. I may have to just make believe.
Yeah, Bob, you'll never be doing another Slooh show again.
yeah, because I'm coming across as a girly man, aren't I?
Well, I don't know. It depends if you drink wine, right? Are you drinking white wine? I mean, is this what's going on?
No, I don't even like wine. Wine to me is like grape juice that went bad.
It is grape juice that went bad.
Oh, you guys.
Yeah.
All right, Dan.
Well,
Thanks for
good to
coming
see you.
in, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.
Good seeing you, Dan.
Cheerio.
All right. Bye. So, Bob, we'll get Chuck back, I'm sure, in a sec. What? I'm looking at the feeds. I'll try to. That was pretty fun.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. That was great, and that art was pretty good, wasn't it, of the transit?
Yeah,
Chuck's
Chuck's
great
character. He was the most passionate guy I ran across on Transit World. He really is into it. So what I'm looking at, I'm gonna screen share in. Let me see here.
Yeah, let's see this.
So you can see it. So can you see okay, or is it too blurry when you look through the Hangout? It's the Hangout. Really,
No, it's okay, but I'd like to see some. I saw that Norway picture a moment ago. That looked pretty good with the cloud right down the middle.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. There's some wild feeds coming in. We're getting near the end here. Here's an interesting one too from Broome, Australia. Let me. I'm gonna screen share this in for you so you can see it, but I don't know if you can how well you're gonna see it. Paul, are you out there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. So I'm just
And for
screen sharing this. What?
That's great. That's great.
Go
And
ahead.
people who are just joining us should be told that who is here is we've got Paul Cox, who is at the Canary Islands. We've got Pat Palucci in Southern California running and juggling this thing. I'm Bob Berman here in upstate New York. We've got Matt Francis in Arizona, and just some of the characters that are here narrating this. We've got others, some solar researchers and really cool astronomers who've been coming and going all night long on this. It's been a very jolly and fabulous transit coverage. So you have an image for us right now, Pat?
Yeah, I'm pulling right from the homepage here. You can see the clock ticking down. It's pretty clear actually right now. Paul, is there any other feeds? What feed are you thinking is the best one right now?
I think the Norway feed is absolutely wonderful. It's about to change to the next image, and it has some cloud going over it. But sometimes cloud makes a solar image. It gives it some context, gives it some scale. I quite like that. And this is an H-alpha image. It's a very good quality. The Norwegian guys have done us a real big favor tonight. They've produced some fantastic images.
So Bob, we're getting close.
Can you post that up? Is that what I'm seeing now with the clouds?
Yeah, that's what you're seeing. Isn't that cool? Isn't that cool?
Yeah, that's very cool.
Oh, we got Chuck's back.
Yeah, we're back, man. We're back.
We made it.
Yeah.
All right, let's see.
Well, the artwork is up on the second floor. Actually, it's like the third floor. The mezzanine level is the balcony. I'm now down in one of the main bar level here at the livery microbrewery, and all the ne'er-do-wells from the Transit of Venus are hanging out here.
All right.
and others. Let me show you what's on the board here, though. I gotta find it. Oh, there it is.
Can we read it?
I saw the word Venusian.
Oh, there it is, the Venusian deer. Is there any Venusian type foods, or is it all just liquid?
Well, actually, it's funny you should ask because yes, we have there is a pizza place in Niles, Michigan called Pizza Transit, and for the Transit of Venus, they made a Transit of Venus pizza and a black drop effect pizza. So the Transit of Venus pizza was really spicy hot. It had that chorizo sausage and jalapeno peppers and some cheddar cheese on it to make it like the sun. And then the black drop one had some black olives going across as well. And it was it's been a hoot here. There's a place in town here also that made Victorian Pantry made what's called battery low. Wasn't called battery low, but we need power here, lads. My computer's upstairs with the cord. The Victorian Pantry made a black drop effect coffee, and so it's been roasted, fabulous coffee that we've been enjoying.
All right.
All right. Now hang on. I got a brewer bartender here. I'm going to put it on the line. He's going to tell you more about this beer because I'm going to go sip some.
Yeah. Excellent. Hey, Paul, is that a live feed you're trying to get in? Just really quick while he's coming in.
Yeah, that's just one of the Norway images. So.
Okay. Cool. All right. Hey, is this the brewery? All right. Is this Mr. Brewmaster?
We're right here at the livery.
What we
have is a lightly hopped golden Belgian ale. Features all Michigan products: Michigan red wheat, black honey, and Michigan hops. We brewed specifically for the Transit of Venus.
So how did you come up with this recipe? What was the motivation?
Well, that would be Steve, our brewmaster, who is currently not here at the time.
Right.
But we made this beer specifically for the Transit of Venus. We won't do this again for another 105 years.
So are you going to lock this recipe away and throw it in that keg that they're going to bury?
Absolutely.
All right. That's a good idea.
Hey, you guys, help me out here. I'm having a mental block. There's another name, a synonym for Venusian. It's like site. It begins with a CY. What's that word that also means pertaining to Venus? You know what I'm talking about?
I don't.
Oh, I'll have to look it up.
But here we are pouring a Venusian.
Okay,
Let's see.
Venusian. All right.
Oh, look at here we are.
And it seems to be very active at the time.
Look at that. It's got a lot of head on it.
Matt Marula is saying Severian.
Say that again.
Severian.
Severian.
Cytherian.
Spell that one more time, please.
Cytherian.
Siberian.
That's not one I've heard of.
And that is a lovely Transit of Venus.
Pertaining to Venus.
Wow, that looks great. That looks very nice. Very nice. Well, congratulations on that. That looks very tasty.
Thank you.
So, Paul, we're looking still here at the transit itself. Where are we at, guys? Are we seeing some? We're getting close to the edge there. Paul, is that Oahu one? Looks pretty nice. That's getting close.
Yep. Freddie's done a marvelous job. He had to take a short break. It started to rain. He closed up and he opened up again for us.
So he's back on. That's live right there. Wow, that's great.
Yeah, these guys are doing a sterling job. I mean, these guys, like us, I think, haven't been away from their computers since the beginning of this, however many hours ago. What are we talking about? 6.5 hours ago, nearly 7 hours. And they are doing a sterling job because it takes so much concentration to keep one of these feeds running, and there's so much tech involved. Anything can go wrong, and it's just one little thing, and you've lost your feed.
So Chuck, man, any final thoughts before we let you go?
Yeah, can I show you one more thing here? So I got to show you our time keg. All right, and I'm going off. I'm going off the grid here. Here we go.
Okay.
We're off the grid, and Actually, these guys, we got some folks that are over here doing it right now. We passed the water. That's for appearances. And
So you're
what we're
putting
doing
little
is,
notes in?
yeah, and if I keep going, actually, whoa, that's just a little note, man. Look at this note here. This is from Kate Roof, and she's got one heck of a long note.
Whoa!
Front and back.
That looks like some. That's Did you write? That's I hope she didn't handwrite that. That's a lot of.
Yeah, she did. I might put her on. But here's the keg.
Yeah.
It's a lovely keg, and then it's got this plug in it that we're going to go and hammer at the end of the evening. And so right now, people have been putting stuff in the keg all day long. We'll seal that up,
Right.
and then plug it, and then put this thing on display. On display, we're not burying this thing. We'll put it on display for the next 105 years.
Wow. So they can't open it until the next one.
Right.
Maybe we should put a hangout video in there too.
Sure. Hey, I'm going to put Kate Roof on. She's fun. She's a astrophysicist, grad student, something like that, from the University of Notre Dame. She's the one that was writing that long tome. And Notre Dame was one of the sites where we had telescopes set up in the public. So here's Kate Roof.
Kate.
Hello.
All right.
Hi.
How you doing, Kate?
Awesome.
So you guys look like you're having a good time out there.
We are. The livery is amazing. We're having a great time.
All right. So what? Tell us again what you're studying. Are you graduated from Notre Dame, or are you still studying at Notre Dame?
No, I'm a graduate student at Notre Dame right now. I'm in just finished my 5th year in the PhD, and we had a ton of people come out today at Notre Dame. We had probably 2,000 people come out. We gave out 500 free solar shades, and we had lines just down the block to come and see everything. It was amazing.
Oh, awesome! So you had? Are you drinking that Venusian beer?
Yeah, we've had that. I sampled some of the other ones. They're amazing. So, and the keg is really cool. We've had people filling the keg all night, and so I'm really excited to put my gigantic letter. I'm talking about gas prices and all sorts of stuff that I think will be interesting in 2117.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good idea. So that's kind of funny. Where's this keg going to be stored? Is it going to be stored in this building, or where's it going?
Chuck, where are we going to store the keg? Where are we storing the keg? I know it's on display.
It might be at the Penn Harris Madison Digital Video Theater. They've got an amazing space museum at the school district. It's really cool.
Yeah.
They've got the autograph of every astronaut who's ever flown in space, and the autographed photos of other pioneers of space, everybody from the Wright brothers and Chuck Yeager and Amelia Earhart, and Dick Rutan, and every astronaut, the taikonauts. So it's in this community. They have this fabulous collection.
Yeah.
And so
it'll be a great place to put this.
Transit of Venus is going to be part of that collection. Actually, at the Penn Harris Madison was a leader in the 2004 Transit of Venus as well. So it's kind of like a big bookend for us doing the 2012.
Yep.
So do you have the paw print? Do you have the paw print from Leica?
Do they have the paw print from Leica? No, I don't think we do. That would be cool. You know, the dog that went into space from Russia.
Well, you know, one thing they got is actually a chimp capsule from when Ham went into space.
Yeah, I got it.
They've got a bunch of artifacts on display as well, and we've got the chimpanzee capsule on display and several items from the moon. So
we're gonna we're also gonna put some other stuff. There was we had a brass quintet come in from called Axiom Brass come in from Chicago, and they did this whole piece called Celestial Suite, which was done with visuals from the Digital Visualization Theater at Notre Dame, live visuals from basically running around in space. And then they played this beautiful piece. All the movements were named after famous astronomers, so Copernicus, Galileo, Newton, and then Hubble and Hawking. And so they did these beautiful pieces with these 4 brass instruments. And the DVT was packed. We had hundreds of people for each show, and it was just a beautiful thing. So we're going to put some tickets in from there so that they know that music was a big part. The arts were a big part of this for us.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yep.
So
There you go.
did you hear you guys found out our Slooh guys told us that a synonym for Venusian is Cytherea, meaning something to do with Venus. Cytherea. Great word. C-Y-T-H.
Hey, Bob, I think your connection's getting a little slow. I don't know what's going
Man,
on. So
thank you. I thought I had just too many beers there. That's appreciate it.
yeah, I was like, what's
That was Bob and not me.
Yeah, no, you're in good shape. I think Bob's had too many beers.
How's that? Better now?
No.
No, it's still cranking off.
Hey,
All right, Chuck.
I just got to tell you one more thing, if I can. Our stump speech here was the following: is that we're saying that, hey, if we as a nation want to prosper through math and science, we need to celebrate math and science in action, and that's what the Transit of Venus was for us. It was a celebration. We're celebrating math. Jeremiah Horrocks was complaining about two things when he was going to do the Transit of Venus. One was that he didn't have enough time to tell anybody. And we all know what that was like. But the other thing he complained, Jeremiah Horrocks complained that he had to compete with sports. Yeah, he wrote that he says his friends didn't care for trifles of this kind because they preferred their hawks and their hounds. And guys, we're still competing with the hawks and the hounds. So we decided that we want to celebrate science and math in action. This is a celebration. That's why we've got things like the Venusian ale, the Black Drop Effect coffee, the Transit of Venus pizzas. There was another restaurant. We got Transit of Venus salad at another place. It's a celebration, and we need to do more of that in math and science.
I agree. I love what you guys do. It's fun. It's exactly what we need to do to get more people interested in it. I'm interested in it, that's for sure. So,
well said.
Looking forward to talking to you further, Chuck. I'd love to. Let's catch up maybe next week or later this week or early next week, and I'll love to hear how things all turned out with the keg and everything.
Okay. It's been beautiful here. Hey, everybody, say goodbye. Woo.
All right, guys. Thank you very much. Thanks, Chuck. Love it. This is awesome.
All right, back to live music. Thanks, guys.
Right.
See you later.
Take it easy, buddy.
Bye.
See ya.
All right, start pouring.
I am so thirsty.
I'm telling you guys, I had when Chuck told me he was going to be broadcasting from the brewery, I just couldn't. It was awesome. We had to do that for sure. So I'm glad we did it. It was hilarious. It was a nice change of pace, that's for sure.
All right,
All right,
fun.
Chuck, take it easy, Ben. See ya.
It's a great pace. Bye.
Bye.
All right, you can get loud, everybody.
So anyway, we had to liven up the broadcast. We've been out here for I don't know. Has it been 6 hours? I've been here 6 hours standing up.
Yep. It's going on 6. It is 6.
In my running shoes. So it's crazy. Anyway, let me see where we're at, Paul. How are we looking? We're getting close to the end here.
Yeah, we are. We've got a few feeds where we should be seeing black drop. The Haleakala in Hawaii, that hopefully they're going to reframe that, but that was looking really nicely placed so that we can see that black drop effect. And then we've got Boom, Australia. That's, I think, going to be quite a nice image for us as Venus gets to the edge of the sun. And of course, Freddie's still going strong down in Hawaii as well. So we've got a few images there, which are nice, tight, kind of high magnification images, which are going to show that effect really well. We didn't really cover it at the beginning, but we'll be able to focus on it a bit more, I think, on this.
That will be our that'll be our Cytherean climax. Don't you like that word, Pat? I mean, Cytherean. Isn't that a beautiful word?
Yes.
I had a correction in spelling apparently for it, Bob. It's Cytherean.
That sounds right. Cytherean.
So yeah.
All right. So guys, look, Norway is cool too. You got a lot of nice feeds coming in, Paul. Congratulations. You did a lot. Paul's worked his butt off getting these feeds set up for us all over the world, and it's really cool that we've got so many different views.
Well,
That's right.
I feel sorry for the people who, did all the same amount of preparation work with me during the last 2 weeks, but for one reason or another, usually weather, weren't able to fire some images up tonight. But everybody's done a sterling job. It's brilliant, and it's not even over yet.
Yeah, we still got. How many hours have we got left? Couple.
No, worry not, but it's not quite that bad.
Well, we're done with. There's no more guests, guys, so it's just us. Bob, why don't you, if you wouldn't mind, I'm gonna show. Bob Berman is the author of The Sun's Heartbeat. I'm gonna show this book in case you guys out there haven't heard of this one. It's a great book, and I read this. My dad read it. He loved it, by the way, Bob. I gave this to my dad for Christmas. Yeah, I give my dad a lot of books, and he never comes back. But he actually came back on this one and said, that was a really cool book. So, very interesting book on the sun, and there's a lot of really unique stories in it. And we've talked about a few of them on the show today. So, Bob, what else unique factoids? I mean, we should talk a little bit about the total solar eclipse section in the book. I thought that was pretty cool too, that you talked about the different events you've been on, the different stories, and how some of the guys. Why don't you probably should tell these stories because you wrote them about them.
Well, did it make you really want to go to a?
Yeah, I'm committed to doing this. I mean, I got to get down. Bob has already booked his event down. Is that in Australia or is it New Zealand? I'm trying to remember.
No, it's Australia where it will be visible from Cairns. That's where Slooh will cover it, and that's where Matt Francis and I will be with Slooh equipment this November 13th. The eclipse really pretty much starts in northern Australia and then swings out over the South Pacific Ocean and does not hit land again. So that's where to see it, and that's where we'll be. And it's the greatest event in nature. It's the most. It makes people weep, makes animals act up, and even though the transit of Venus has been wonderful and unusual, you can't honestly say it is a thing of beauty. You can say it's a thing of oddity. You could say it's a thing that we'll never see again. But a good display of the northern lights or a total solar eclipse is a thing of immense, unspeakable beauty. And so that's what's coming up a little later this year for us.
Absolutely, and I can't wait to do that show as well. So, Paul, why don't you, I think, Paul, you should jump in and tell us more about the scope that the Meade scope. I thought you talked about it earlier today, and I thought that was really good. I would love to hear it again, because I think people need to understand, if you don't already know, we're offering a free Meade telescope with every yearly or 2-year membership to Slooh. And as a member, you get the opportunity to control our high-powered observatories in the Canary Islands. But we're also offering this Meade scope, and I asked Paul to create a 1-minute demo, which he did, plus 10 minutes, so it's a 11-minute demo. But it's right below the box what we're talking in. If you're on the Slooh.com homepage, you'll see it, and it really is pretty informative. And Paul, why don't you talk more about it really quick to let people know about the scope? Because I thought it was, you came to me and said, I'm pretty surprised that the quality of this is pretty good.
Yeah, I did. I came back after setting it up. I resisted I wanted the demonstration to be real life. So I resisted the temptation of opening it up in the UK and, testing it all out beforehand. So in that video, when you see me getting all of the bits of the telescope out of the box, it's the first time they've ever been unwrapped. The only thing I did was read the manual. And even that, was just wonderful. Sometimes nowadays you buy things and you're always used to getting ripped off and something's never right. It made a real change for me. And look, I'm not a salesman. I don't feel comfortable kind of promoting stuff too much. But it made a real change to have something that was just good quality. The manual
Meade is good quality. At our observatory, we have a research-grade Meade telescope. They are a top-quality brand.
Well, I talk about this in the video, Bob, that I am trying to persuade Meade to actually give us one of their Max 20 ACF telescopes. a site like this, right, would showcase Meade's primary observatory class telescope in a way that nobody else could. That, you know, you've got the site here, which is absolutely world class. Then you've got Slooh and what we can do with it to provide live images streaming out from it. So, you know, anybody who's listening to this, get hold of the Meade Instruments chairman and, you know, give him a quick nudge and say, look, you need to be working with these guys over there. But anyway, back to the promotion telescope. So when you buy a 1 or 2 year membership to Slooh, today, Pat's saying that this promotion is only running today for the length of the transit. You'll be sent, if you're living in North America, a Meade TerraStar 60 refracting telescope. It's a beginner's telescope. You won't see galaxies in it, you won't see nebulae in it, you won't see anything but the brightest comet in it. But what you will see is the moon, and you'll see the moon in a great deal of detail. You'll also see the rings of Saturn and the belts of Jupiter. And the Galilean satellites as well we were talking about.
And you can see the Orion Nebula. The Orion Nebula would show up.
But faint and fuzzy, Bob. And really, I wouldn't say that to people. You might, but I wouldn't, because you have to manage people's expectations when you talk about the capabilities of a telescope. And you know, I get a bit fed up seeing the outside of boxes of telescopes in all sorts of, you know, toy shops and stuff like that, and they have these amazing Hubble-like pictures on the outside. It's not what you see, and that's the whole point of this promotion, really, that this little telescope, this little Meade telescope, is fantastic quality. It comes with software to help you navigate your way around the sky. It's got some lunar software that means you can click on any area, any feature on the moon, and it'll tell you all the information about it, how big it is, what its name is, stuff like that. So it'll help you find your way around like that. It will be good at showing you the moon and the planets, but really anything more than that, you need large telescopes, and you need large telescopes with CCD cameras on the back of them.
Well, you know, I do have to say my first telescope was a 60-millimeter telescope, the same size, and I loved it for 3 solid years. I looked at the universe through that, and I drew pictures of the Orion Nebula through it. And yes, through a city, you'll see the things that you said. But if you get into kind of dark skies,
but did you see any color, Bob? Did you see any color in that little
no
exactly,
color.
And that's why I like to manage people's expectations. You know, even the best object that you're going to see through a telescope, with that, even larger telescopes, nebulae and galaxies, you're not going to see the color come out of them. You know,
That's true.
It's just managing expectations. And really, what I'm trying to get to is that Meade telescope, as part of the promotion, is great to look at the moon and look at the planets. It doesn't need to be good at looking at nebulae, faint bits, and galaxies, because the promotion is all about buying a Slooh membership, and that's what Slooh does best. You're going to be using things like the half-meter telescope here in the Canary Islands. You're going to be selecting a time that you want the telescope to move, and you're going to select an object or coordinates where you want it to move to. And you'll sit there in front of your home computer, and halfway around the world at that allotted time, this telescope that I'm working on this week is going to be moving because you told it to move to that particular object. Then it's going to all of our other equipment, our expensive scientific grade CCD cameras and expensive filters are going to take a whole series of images because you instructed it to. Those images get streamed live, processed and streamed live, straight back through the Slooh, what we call the mission interface, onto your machine. You did that. So that's really what I'm trying to get across, that I think is the exciting thing about this promotion. That telescope, the Meade telescopes, the TerraStar 60, gives you the opportunity of some fantastic fun out in your back garden, looking at the moon and the planets, bird watching as well. You'll see in the video I took some webcam footage through the telescope of this antenna, this large antenna which was at least a mile away, and you can see a small red warning light on it. So it's a great deal of fun, and I was actually a little bit captivated by it, a little bit mesmerized by it, mainly because I hadn't looked through a telescope for so long. But it's just that combination of having a great deal of fun with that in your back garden, having that real astronomy, Bob, that I think you were talking about with some of the guys earlier, looking through the eyepiece, having some of that tactile contact with astronomy, but then getting the benefit of being able to control a half-meter telescope 3,000 miles across the world from you. I think that's a fantastic combination, actually.
Yes, agreed.
All right, guys, can you, sorry, can you hear me, or am I muted?
No, you're fine.
Oh, I'm on.
Well,
Okay, I'm doing a couple of back-end stuff.
Just watch your
I'm sending out some snaps.
screen, Pat. Watch your screen, though, because you're screen sharing it every once in a while.
Oh, yeah.
When you don't want to
turn that off. Yeah, I turned it off. I was doing some back-end stuff, and I always forget I can't do I start doing back-end stuff, and I'm like, oh.
When we went offline earlier, by the way, I had a few emails from people, and I'm going to repeat that offer now, because it was obviously appreciated. If anybody takes us up on this promotion, and they land up getting this little telescope, and they want to start learning about Slooh, email me. Email me at paul@slooh.com. Right, I'll give you any kind of advice. Personal advice, it's not through Slooh, it's just, one-to-one advice. I'm happy to give that to you. I had a guy from the UK, by the way, contact me, who was saying, hey, listen, how can I get this telescope? And I said, unfortunately, you can't. It's restricted to, is it North American customers, Pat?
United States only.
United States only. Right, well, I did say to him that I was going to persuade you that if he took out his membership tonight, and this certainly can't be extended to anybody else because we've only got one of them, that I will send him the telescope that I used for the promotion video. We'll have one happy UK customer. So, and the other thing to remind people of, if they're going to take a membership up tonight of Slooh, I'm going to be starting a series of how to use Slooh Hangout. So you come into the Slooh Space Camera Google Plus stream, and check out. You can join the Hangout, and we're going to walk you through every single step of using Slooh, from the most basic thing of logging in, all the way through to finding coordinates of a comet and making the telescope point in that direction, and then even processing some images yourself. So. That will start on Saturday night, the first one.
Yeah, Paul, that'd be great. I mean, we definitely should do more of these events where you are educating people on using their scopes, answering their questions. You have such vast knowledge of not only our equipment, but people's personal equipment, that it'd be a great service to them. So, Bob, man, the Venus, I'm going to screen share in Venus again, or the feeds for you.
Yes,
I know you can't see them.
Right.
We're getting close there, man. We're getting very close. Hold on. Or Paul, can you do it better? Maybe you could do it easier for your two feeds.
I can certainly try. Hold on a sec.
It's easier for you. That way I don't start screen sharing my computer.
So I've got two computers, and I have to scoot between each of them. So, and they're both slowing up a bit after, what is it, 7.5 hours of hard work. Right, let's have a look.
Yeah, I'm just tweeting out. I'm sending out a lot of pics for people to. Right. We're done with the broadcast. I have to say the broadcasting went pretty smooth, considering. I mean, I definitely need to get a show producer because it's hard to manage the show while you're broadcasting.
Oh, it's been a long show, and me too. You know, Anjali and I were spent 2.5 hours with the technical, trying to get the laptops and all the feeds here in upstate New York going before the event even began. So we've been at this 8.5 hours now.
Yeah, it is an amazingly complex thing to put on, and the fact that, you know, the systems, touchwood, have stayed up for the duration is testament for the hard work, I think. Right, I've just got this little one. This, Bob, is the feed from Broome, Australia. This is Anthony Wesley. He's now producing images, by the way. Every 30 seconds these are being streamed direct from Australia to us. And you can see that this is going to be a really nice one for us to see the black drop effect. If I can
yes, it's getting Venus is now. It looks to be like maybe 3 or 4 Venus diameters from the edge.
Yeah, I think that's about right, Bob. I'm just going to try and. Unfortunately, we seem to they might have a bit of cloud or a bit of a pointing problem at the Haleakala. Yeah.
Haleakala is
I really like this.
good. It's a beautiful place. It's up at 10,000 feet, and it's just gorgeous. People go up there for sunrise and sunset because you can see the mountain that you're on, Haleakala, which has 2 major one major observatory and 1 minor one. You can see the mountain casting its shadow on the Earth, 10,000 feet. It's quite a place.
You know, the Oahu feed's pretty amazing too, I have to say.
Yeah, and that's this one, Bob, that we're showing you. Freddie Willems down there has done an absolutely sterling job and has been producing images virtually from the start of the transit. So I think this one's going to be another good shot to see this black drop effect. We're kind of lucky that a couple of the best feeds that we've got at the end of the event are these kind of quite tight, highly magnified.
And our guests and our viewers should be aware that we are now watching the last few minutes of Venus that probably anybody alive who's watching this will see again. Now, I actually got an email from somebody after I said this on a radio show the other day. They said, well, what do you mean? You know, it's 105.5 years. People live that long. But I think the people who are actually on now and understanding this, we're not talking about a 1-year-old, we're talking about people old enough to be following this. That's going to be a push for them to be around in 2117. So let's watch these final minutes as Venus moving at 22 miles per second. That's its orbital speed. That's 44 times faster than a high-velocity rifle bullet.
Say that again, Bob.
Venus is moving at 22 miles per second, which is 44 times.
22 miles per second. That's amazing.
And we are actually seeing that speed. That's what we're witnessing as Venus moves towards the limb of the sun right now.
So Paul, what is this other feed you got here? Is that alive or is that something else?
The one here, the one behind this.
I like the Norway feed too. You got it.
Yeah, that's. The one that you see there is Sydney Observatory, but it should be a live feed.
Well, that looks older because it's not.
Be a bit of a.
Yeah, Venus is further from the limb now in this one, so it can't be current.
I would like Paul point to that Norway one. I think that one's
we've got some of the current.
There we go.
Yeah. Well, these are some of the Norway feeds here. And you can see in this, you might not be able to. Pat, are you sharing this to make it big in the Hangout?
Yeah, it is on my screen, yeah.
Well, it's not on mine. Is it on yours, Bob?
No, it's not big. What I'm seeing is, I think, Matt Francis. I'm just seeing a person frozen big looking through an eyepiece.
It's big. If you go to the Slooh.com homepage, you'll see it. It's big there.
Yeah, but if you click on it, Pat, as the Hangout manager, you can make it appear where Bob is currently appearing, right? Because when you see it in a larger size, there are actually quite a few sunspot groups on the sun at the moment, and Venus passed very close to those, and we had some shots earlier from Freddie Willems.
Do that, Pat. Do that.
No, I am. I've got it. I'm clicked on it. I'm clicked.
Oh, right. Something's not working then, so the Hangout's not.
You can't see it, Bob. Yeah, it's not. It's weird. If you go to the home page, you'll see it. Like you'll see it big.
Well, Bob, you can click on it. If you click on that small Hangout, it will actually make it big on your personal Hangout.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll do that.
All right.
Oh yes, it did.
Some of the images from Norway are getting a little bit blurry. I think we're so close to the horizon there, and of course, solar observing is always best in the early part of the morning when the ground's quite cool as well. This one is totally fuzzy, so I think they must have some haze there. Yeah. So we've lost a couple. Actually, I'm gonna leave up one of the Norway feeds because that is more representative. Because I think
This
the
one's
Sydney
good.
feed
This
has
one's
actually
very good.
stuck. Yeah, yeah.
Is that the one this one you got going? That's live. That's happening right now, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually this other Norway one you've got too. You know, this Oahu one is awesome.
Yeah.
I really like it because it's got a nice color contrast.
Yeah, I was just going to bring that up actually. You can see this is what I mean by sometimes a little bit of cloud is quite good, and you can just about make out on this. Oh, if I can stop Windows doing what I don't want it to do. No, you can't quite see it on this, but you can just see a wisp of cloud on the bottom of the image, and I just think I don't know, it adds a kind of element of 3 dimensions to solar images.
Yes, it does. Now, I also want to point out to all of our viewers now the size difference. We are looking at, when we look at this round black planet, Venus is 7,000 miles in diameter. The sun behind it is 865,000 miles in diameter. 865,000, which means that over 100 Earths in a row could stretch across the width of the sun. So it's an enormous star that sits at the center of our solar system. And Venus, which is a planet just about the same size that we are, and much closer to us, of course, than the sun is, look how that is dwarfed by that huge star in the background.
Yeah, this is awesome. I mean, I'm on looking at the Oahu one myself on the homepage of Slooh. So it's I think what's cool is you really get perspective here when you know, because I've been saying it all night, but Venus is similar size to Earth, and when you see it compared to the sun, you just realize what a little tiny dot we are.
That's right, and it's not even a fair comparison because it's way in front of the sun. It's 70% of the way from the sun to the Earth. So if it were in the distance where the sun is, it would of course look much smaller.
Right.
So as impressive as it looks, that is how big the sun looks in comparison, it would even be bigger if we were comparing apples with apples, if it was really at the same distance. Meantime, we are seeing Venus very close to the edge now. It looks like we're only about 2 Venusian, or shall we say Cytherean. We are 2 Cytherean diameters from the end of the transit.
This is Haleakala come back online just at the right time.
How's their feed looking? I'll go to it on myself.
That's nice. That's very nice.
Oh man, I'm gonna pin that one. Yeah, that's cool.
This one's. I think all 3 of the main feeds that we're talking about at the moment are going to be superb for spotting this black drop effect. Bob, people may have joined us halfway through this and might not know about that effect. You gave a fantastic explanation about it earlier.
Well, the best way to understand it is that when Venus is exactly tangent to the inside of the sun, that was the moment that timings were made in the 18th and 19th centuries to figure out the exact distance to Venus and to the sun. So it's very important to know the moment, that's what we're going to be looking for now, when Venus is just touching space, just at the edge of the sun. But there is a confusion. Observers reported that this odd, bizarre black drop appeared, as if a little bit of outer space leaked in to meet Venus before it had quite reached the edge, and it threw off their timings. These days we know that it's an effect caused by the diffraction of light being a wave, and that we can reproduce it. You can reproduce it right now by holding up your 2 fingers as if you were making the A-OK sign, and having a little gap between your thumb and your index finger. Go ahead, Pat, try this. And close one eye, and put both fingers.
I might have doing something.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Put that in front of a white surface, either a wall or your computer monitor where it's.
Yeah.
And now bring your fingers slowly closer together, and you'll see that a black drop connects.
Yeah.
before they
Yeah.
touch. You have to move it very slowly, but before they make contact, you'll see that there is some apparent contact, some spurious, make-believe blackness that goes between your fingers. Well, that is what we're going to see now as Venus approaches the edge of the sun, the famous black drop effect that confused the all-important timings that so many teams of transit goers were trying to make for centuries. Now we're only one Venusian diameter, one Cytherean. I love that word. I've got to say, I'm going to keep using it over and over again. One Cytherean diameter from the edge, and at moving again, you can figure out how long it's going to take because Venus moves 22 miles a second. It's 7,000 miles across. This is going to add up pretty quickly. We're actually seeing the speed of Venus moving in its orbit around the sun.
Bob, everybody around the globe, and even on the feeds that we're showing, they're not actually what they call first, second, third, fourth contact when the edge of Venus contacts the edge of the sun. The timing's not quite the same, is it?
No, and that's the whole point with all the eclipse expeditions, because there's a little bit of a parallax effect. If you're observing this from Asia, compared to observing this from Hawaii, you have thousands of miles of a different angle looking toward Venus and the edge of the sun. And so you're going to see it in a slightly different place. And that was why the timings made from different locations added to the knowledge of the gap between the observers. You also had to know how far apart the observers were on Earth. But between the two of those created a very simple geometry problem. And you could solve it, or I should say using simple trigonometry, you could figure out the exact distance to Venus and the sun.
Wow.
And here we go, as we now approach that very measurement that was made by Captain Cook when he went to French Polynesia, and all the other expeditions, some of which met with tragedy, and some of which met with triumph for centuries. It only became less important in the last series of transits, only in the one in, even in the transit at the end of the 19th century, these were still important for determining the astronomical unit or the distance to the sun. But now, radar in the 1960s took over. First we sent spacecraft inward, and then we used radar bouncing off Venus and then Mercury to give us the true distances across the solar system. We timed those radar pulses, and it was much more accurate than a transit method. So for the first time, the transit of 2004 on June 8th of that year, and now the transit now of June 5th of 2012, for the first time these transits are merely curiosities. They are things to look at because they're fascinating and rare, rather than critical for us to find out astronomical data the way they were for so many centuries.
Bob, just keep going, man. You're on a roll right now.
Okay, well here we go now. We are now less than one Venus diameter from the edge, and we are going to be looking for that black drop. Now remember, this black drop was something that gave migraines to I was going to say millions, but it wasn't millions, but to hundreds of transit observers. It gave them splitting headaches. They wanted to know the exact moment that the inside of Venus would first touch the edge of the sun. That's what they needed to know, and they needed to know it to within 1 second. In fact, Edmund Halley had predicted that if we could get the measurements to within 5 seconds, we could pin down the distance to the sun pretty accurately. And he thought using the clocks of the time, good common clocks of that period, and just observing the transit, as these expeditions did, we could pin it down. But when they came back, the observers all reported different times for this event. We're going to see it ourselves now. And we're going to see why it is so difficult to say, and I'm going to have Pat vote, and Paul, and all of you, I want you to call out the moment that you think you see Venus exactly at the edge of the sun's disk, and you'll see that we may have differing views of it. We may differ by half a minute or a minute, and that was no good back then. That kind of disparate results wound up producing results for the distance to the sun and to Venus that were even worse than what we thought before the transits began. In other words, in a way, the first set of transits in the 18th century were failures. And they were failures for the reason that we're going to see in a few moments, the black drop.
So, Paul, you pulled up some different feeds here. Which one is this? Was that the Norway one?
This is one of the Norway feeds. Unfortunately, Haleakala they've got some pointing problems right at a critical point. So I'll show you their latest image. You can actually see Venus has kind of disappeared off the edge of it. But this is one of the Norway feeds. Behind it, we've got the black and white, very crisp view at this kind of magnification. This is in Australia. This is Broome, Australia.
That's a good one.
Yeah, it is. That's very, very clear. Very clear.
Now, how often are we getting images from them?
This one is updating. The Broome, Australia one is updating every 30 seconds. So just so people know, what we're doing at the moment is on the Slooh homepage, in the event viewer at the above, you can click through all of the different feeds. And the couple that we're looking at are Norway. We're also looking at Broome in Australia. But we're also, for people who are watching the Hangout, we've got some large, we're putting some of the images in there as well, so you can see these last stages.
Yeah, this is a Wahoo.
I would say, you know, to compare apples with apples, maybe just at least in the Hangout, maybe you can stick with Broome, because if we're getting them every 30 seconds, because we want to make timings ourselves. We want to pretend we're a transit expedition from the 18th or 19th century, and we want to pin down that moment that the interior side of Venus touches the sun's limb. And Matt Francis is back with us. He and I, Bob Berman, Pat Palucci, and Paul Cox, the four of us are going to call out when we think the moment has been reached. And we'll see whether we can really, whether we're in unanimity or not. And we're going to see just what the problems were for these centuries of transit observations.
Bob, we're there. We're there. Just kidding. Go ahead, Matt. Sorry.
No, I was just saying that's a good idea. I like that.
There's been an interesting project that's been run. Some of the Norwegian guys have had a brilliant website, as well as some of the others that have been up, and they've had they've got an iPhone app, I think, and it's people around the world who are observing visually the transit are actually pressing the button exactly when they think that contact's been made, and it all gets fed back to this huge database. So it's quite an interesting project.
That's a very interesting project. They would have died for that back in the 1760s.
Well, when you start accumulating that level of data, the error margins virtually disappear, you know, with that many data points.
Except you forgot about the black drop that throws a monkey wrench into the data.
Exactly, yeah.
So look at
and of course, sorry,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying.
I was going to...
Go ahead, Paul. Paul, you're on. You're on. Go.
I was only going to say that, you know, we can't do it quite as accurately as everybody else because we're stuck with 30-second intervals, but people are doing this visually. They will be glued to their eyepiece at the moment.
Go to sorry to interrupt you, man, because it's getting close.
No, go.
Haleakala. Go to Haleakala. I can never pronounce this.
Haleakala.
I'm pulling it up. If you see it, they got it back to pointing, and it's really close.
Oh,
Bob.
yeah, okay. I've got it here. Now, I think, you know, this brings another interesting point, that it depends on the image quality as well, because the Haleakala image has been a little bit soft all night, I felt. So there's no real defined edge to that. So the two edges, the edge of Venus and the edge of the Sun, are kind of join up, aren't they? But you see this one.
That's sharp. That's sharp.
Australia is a lot sharper.
Yes, yes.
So I think we're going to see a very large black drop effect on the Haleakala, and we're going to see as small as it gets in this boom feed.
Yeah, I got two.
Let's find out. Let's find out.
I love this. Well, we got some nice feeds coming in, guys. This is awesome. What an end-to-end show, man. This has been what a whirlwind marathon. Awesome.
I'm amazed you're still coherent, Pat.
Who's Pat? Who's that?
He's still dreaming of that beer.
Yeah, I'm going right to the bar. I'm going to call my wife and say I'm going to have some Venusian beer.
Even Anjali, who has been the behind-the-scenes technical person on my end here, somebody just asked her how old she is, and she looked at them and she said, "How old am I?" She couldn't think of it. She couldn't come up with a number.
She's been on some the big long. I mean, the one that we did up in Alaska was pretty tough too.
Yeah.
So let's see here.
I'd like to give a very quick shout out to Freddie Williams. He's lost his image because it's gone behind some palm trees. So he's going to get a chainsaw out tomorrow and be cutting them down. So
tomorrow, isn't that like opening the barn door, or
it is a little
whatever
bit.
The expression is?
Yeah. Bit of bad timing, but he's provided some fantastic images all evening.
All right, so guys, here we go.
I think if you were looking at that Haleakala image without that degree of magnification on it, I think you'd probably be calling that now. Yeah, so if you were...
well, I don't know. I see a little bit of...
maybe not. So,
no.
You see what I mean? If you're looking at it, that far away, it's certainly going to join up sooner rather than later.
Now, Paul, I think I'm going to have to fire you from our transit team in determining the sun's distance.
Does that mean I can't come for the other one then? That was me. I was getting really excited about doing the next one with you, Bob.
No, so the best feed right now. The best feed right now is Australia and the Haleakala. I can't even pronounce that thing.
Well, it's the country. It's the country. They don't have enough consonants there.
Almost called Hawaii. The Hawaii feed. That's the best. I like the Hawaii.
That's what I've been doing with the other one I can't pronounce.
How many consonants
do
they have? They have something like 8 consonants. They don't have enough.
Yeah.
They even have words. They have words with just consonants, like lava. You know their name for lava?
What?
Yeah, spelled A-A.
Okay, here we go.
Oops. Oh, look at that.
Oh, now we're getting close to black dropness. Yeah. Getting close to it.
Wow. I gotta get ready to pin some photos here. Oh, there we go.
Pat, if you can keep an eye on the other feeds, because I am literally just concentrating on both of these ones for the hangout.
Yep. What's this called? The black drop?
Yes, exactly. But I don't really quite see it yet. There's sort of a suggestion of it from the Haleakala, but not quite. It looks black
I'm
drop-ish.
tweet it out.
And Paul, I'm kidding with you. You've done, Paul. You've done a fabulous job tonight. Thank you so much.
No, I took it to heart, Bob. I'm sorry. You don't want me.
It looks like
you don't want me for the next one. I resign.
The Oahu feed is not there. Norway looks a little stale. The best feeds right now are the Australia.
I haven't been able to update the Norwegian ones back because I've been doing this one. So I've actually been feeding the Norway images all evening. So.
Okay, that's why. So I'm seeing the Hawaii feed looks good.
Yeah, that looks like some kind of real black drop in there. That's something, It looks like it shouldn't be quite at the edge, but it looks like it is. So I think we're seeing a black drop effect in Haleakala.
And if you start thinking about, when they were trying to do this, Bob, they're all looking through different instruments, which are going to be varying qualities, vastly varying qualities, different magnifications, different sky conditions. The sun's going to be low down on the horizon for some of them.
Not to
all
mention
of that contributes to this.
And the turbulence of daytime observing.
Yes.
All right, that's clear. I'm putting that feed number 1 right now. He's moved up.
You can't hold Pat back.
I'm going. He just got promoted.
Yes, the turbulence, Bob, must be a big driver for the differences. Because when you look at it live through the telescope at very high magnification, it almost wobbles back and forth.
Oh yeah, I think it's there, Bob. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I don't know. You could see why these people were so unsure of the moment of contact. Pinning it down to the second, looking at the angle, the outline of Venus, I would say it's not quite there yet.
I agree.
Looking at
not right there.
Yeah.
What's with the one on the left, Paul? Are you still getting a feed from there?
No, I think there's a bit of a delay on that one, Pat. Just to say that I'm going to see this clearer than any of you guys because I've got obviously the original image on my screen. So it'll be interesting to see when you guys say, "Yep, that's it," and whether or not that. You see, I've got that on my screen, and that is it. That is definitely it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right.
The black goes into the black. I can't see, and I've got this thing blown
the
up
sun looks like
huge
it's
on my
bent.
monitor. Yeah, it does. It does.
Bob, do you concur or you don't agree?
I would say that's a black drop effect, but that's not really the true moment of interior contact. I'd say that's
absolutely.
just a black drop.
I agree. Yeah.
If you were to imagine the disk.
Yeah, I can't imagine it.
Not quite there.
You guys are a tough crowd.
Yeah, because look, if you follow Venus's angle, its size, its shape, and make that circle into a complete circle without distortion.
Yeah.
Well,
And that's the next one on. That image is just updated again.
Yeah, now I'd say we're there. We're definitely at the real, or maybe even beyond at this point, the real moment of contact. It's called third contact, and we're there. I'll be interested to see what those other images from Australia show. Even though they're lagging behind, it'll be interesting to see the clarity.
Hopefully that will catch up. So, what else if we? I'm just going to update the Norwegian images actually, and we'll take a good look at those.
Yeah, definitely. That Norwegian feed was really cool you had because it had the clouds coming in, and it really gave it a unique effect.
The actual language, Norwegian, sounds like a tape running backwards.
Really? Do you want to quote some for us?
Yeah.
Well, so, are those crickets I keep hearing? What is that?
Yeah, that could be me. Sorry about that.
No, I like that. It's a nice sound. I mean, it makes me want to fall asleep.
Oh, they've lost their pointing. So Haleakala, that's not where the image is on my monitor. That's where they're pointing it to at the moment. Which is up for us. That was going so well. This is one of the Norwegian feeds here.
A bit delayed, right? A little delayed, right?
Yeah. Well, actually, these are the last images that came through, Bob, and they all look very similar, but they're all from different telescopes. So actually, I think this is how it looks, probably in Norway at the moment. In fact, this one's got a timestamp on it, so I'll look at it.
Yeah, they might be. Are they dead? They might be.
No, no, because there's so many feeds.
Ooh, look at the Broome Australia feed. I'm looking at it right now.
Oh yeah, look at that. That's good.
Oh yeah, look at that. Yes,
that is marvelous timing. I hope Anthony is listening to us down there. That was very nice timing, Anthony. Thank you.
And you know what? I'd say almost no black drop there. I mean,
no, I agree.
You know, that would have been a beautiful timing event for anybody who's really trying to catch the moment. I would do this, and I would add maybe 10 seconds to it, and I'd say we're there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there is the next image.
And there it is. Beautiful.
Wow.
Beautiful.
Wow.
That is probably the crispest image.
Yes, very much
I've
so. Very much
seen
so. It's perfectly
of
tangent.
something like this at this stage.
The two discs are tangent. That is the perfect tangent image. It's almost like something from a math book.
I'm just pinning this stuff out.
Don't you think? That's gorgeous. That's absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, it's amazing. My right wrist is gonna fall off in a second.
Don't want to know, thank you. Your personal life is yours.
Now, of course, there is something else to look
boy,
for.
don't go there, man. Don't go there.
My friends, there's something else we must look for now, and that is once Venus sticks out a little bit, we want to see if its atmosphere, which is 50 miles thick, we want to see if that's being lit up from behind by the sun. So once Venus just gets out into space a little bit, we want to look very closely to see if we can see it glowing a little bit of an aura around the dark part of the planet.
Yeah. Okay, I'm looking at it. Wow.
Really beautiful. We're reaching the final moments of this long transit event. We've been at this for 8 or 9 hours straight. We've been on the air now for 6.5 hours straight. Live coverage. We've had a series of fascinating people. I'll exclude present company modestly, and I'll just point out that we've had everybody from a brewmaster to Dan Kelson to two lady solar
Lucy
experts.
Green.
Yes. And
Karen Pollard.
Yep. Series of fascinating guests.
It's been a wild show, and we've had, it's moved pretty smoothly, considering how long it's been.
There are so many people behind all of these feeds that I've worked with over the last couple of weeks. Some of whom were lucky enough to have clear skies today and no technical problems so that they could give us our images. And then obviously the people who have been online. It's been such a Herculean effort by all of them, not least actually by Matt Francis, who's sitting here in the Hangout as well. His images were superb. But it's certainly a team effort, this thing. And behind all of it are Slooh members who pay their subscriptions to use the Slooh telescopes, and that's what pays for us to be able to do these kind of free events online. So thank you, a big thank you to them.
Absolutely.
Well said, well said. And so our Cytherean experience winds down to the final minutes as we watch Venus now heading off into the blackness of space. I want to remind everybody that in just 2 weeks, Venus will start to be glimpsed right before dawn. You'll see it popping into the eastern sky, low in the sky before dawn, and by the time July comes around, we're talking about, only another 3-4 weeks, you will see the most beautiful morning star that we have seen in 8 years. It will be glorious and dazzling and even cast shadows if you get up about an hour before sunrise. And that will be throughout the month of July. Just look to the east, the direction of sunrise, an hour before sunrise, and you will see the same planet doing its best morning star apparition since 2004.
That'll be beautiful.
Yeah, look at that. So, Paul, we getting any more shots coming in from Australia?
I have been refreshing it, so not yet though. The
like
Haleakala is still updating, and that's
Yeah.
kind of. In fact, you almost get a double drop effect there. The sun's edge seems to bend in, doesn't it? On the image on the right, the Haleakala one.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
it's so fuzzy. You know, you said
Yeah,
it's
maybe just
so
obvious.
fuzzy.
It's a shame.
But you know, Paul, I don't think that's the sun bending in. I think that's still half of Venus sticking into it.
No, I didn't mean all of that, Bob. I'm not that tired. Who's taken that bite?
It looks like someone's taking a bite out of the sun right now. That's what it looks like.
Well, that's what it sounded like Paul was saying, and I wanted to see if I could.
Paul's just lost it. Paul, I'm gonna have to mute
Yeah,
you. I'm
absolutely.
sorry. You have to be muted. You've been muted.
Okay. I mean, that looks like Dutch cheese to me. The Broom Australia feed now. So we missed that interesting in-between point, I think, Bob, that you were talking about. We didn't grab an image just at that point to be able to see a kind of ring of light of Venusian atmosphere.
Well, sometimes it extends even when Venus is fully just outside the solar disk. You know, it all has to do, as you well know, with exposure too. You know, they're exposing for the sun right now, and it may be fainter.
Yeah, it looks like the Australia feed, I think, is the best one, right?
Yeah.
The one Broom.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just getting to it. Yeah, the Hawaii feed's gotten a little off pointing.
So, gentlemen, what do you want? What do you want to be for the next transit of Venus? I'm talking about reincarnation here.
Well, you know, Bob, not far from my house here in Arizona is the Alcor Institute, where they basically cut off your head and freeze you when you die.
Oh, cryogenics. Yeah, I'll have some of that.
They cut your head off?
Why would they cut your head off? Isn't they going to make it a little bit more difficult to revive you in the future?
Well, it keeps the brain stem intact. That's why they do it. This is one of the Norway images, guys, just while you're talking there.
That's good.
And we are reaching that same point on some of the Norway images.
Yeah, look at that.
Nice.
Yeah, or Australia, it looks pretty clean, too.
People won't be seeing this in the event viewer, but I'm just updating it now. So they'll start to see some of these new Norwegian shots come through.
Well, it's nice to know, to answer Matt Francis there, it's nice to know that, you know, some people think the United States economy is slowing down, but I'm glad to see there are still enterprises that are doing things like that, like cutting your head off. And
Yeah.
That's the next business. It's an extension. Slooh's going to open up a subsidiary.
Only in America, says the English guy.
Oh, come on, Paul. There's a logic to it. If you
Hey, listen, I'd have it done. I'd have no problem with that. No one else would have it.
maybe if they could attach my head to a different kind of body, that would be fun. I don't have a tail.
Like one of those mythological creatures.
There you go. I think
That's a very nice image from Australia at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, that's very nice. By the way, Matt, my favorite mythological creature was the one that Woody Allen talked about that had the head of a lion and the body of a lion, but a different lion.
I've never heard that. That's funny.
If you
I don't know
guys,
who invited you, Bob, but you can come again.
If you want, I'm gonna invite Chuck back from the brewery. He's come. I'm just kidding.
Don't have the stamina.
Well,
I love that one. Oh. Well, wow. Look at that.
Oh, that's even better. I would say that's halfway now. That's just such a beautiful image to me. I know it's black and white, but there's something about it. I really like that.
you can almost convince yourself that was like a hole in the sun.
Right to the end, huh?
Yeah, I'm just pinning some of these photos for records.
Those fingers are still typing fast, Pat.
Oh. I'm
I
so
haven't told
beat.
you
I'm so
day
beat.
off tomorrow. Oh, fantastic one. Norway's just come in. That's lovely.
Oh, that's a good one.
I think the chat room is calling for Chuck. They want Chuck back. They
The
want
natives
Chuck.
are revolting.
Yeah, they love Chuck. Chuck was funny. He was definitely the most passionate guy about the transit of Venus I spoke to in this whole process of all the people, and I talked to a lot of people. He was definitely the most passionate, which was awesome.
I like that graduate student who had filled both sides of a piece of paper with this close-in writing of goodness knows what to be uncovered in 105 years. You know.
Yeah.
I can't imagine why any graduate student would want to do that much extra writing when they didn't have to.
Well, if I go down to Australia with you and Matt for the total, we've got to come up with our own brew, man. I'm gonna brew my own beer and bring it down there or something.
Taking beer to Australia, you'll be thrown out of the country. If they let you in the first place.
What do you think? We could come up with a cool name. I don't know. I like the idea, man. Just give me. I'm getting. Maybe that's how we should be selling Slooh. You buy a membership to Slooh, you get a case of beer.
By the way,
Cairns,
Pat, yes, it's part of a tour on. I don't know. I shouldn't even. It's not a plug. It's called Bob Berman Astronomy Tour. Berman Astronomy Tour. We're actually filled, but I just talked to George to see if there was room for you, Pat. And there's one opening. And you know why there's one opening? Because somebody in Matt's group dropped out. He told me.
Ah. Well.
I don't know about that.
Really? That's what he said.
Matt's. I called him. I called that guy. He said I can get in the trip. He said that Matt paid for me, so I'm in.
I only mention that because we've got a very good friend of Slooh down there who's called Joseph Brimacombe. He was trying to give us some images here tonight. He's an incredibly well-known astro-imager and also a supernova hunter as well, a very successful supernova hunter.
Is he in the Cairns
none of you guys... Yeah, he's there. He's an ethnologist, and then, yeah, you know what I mean. But Pat, that means you don't have to go, mate, because Joe will give us a lovely feed down there, so you can stay where you are.
Thanks.
That's what you said to me when I secured a Hawaii feed. No, Paul, you don't need to go down there.
We don't need you there. Hey, I got some good. The chat room's fired up, man. They got some names for the beer: Aussie Ale, Astronomy Ale. Let's see. They said we're all Chucks in Australia. That's pretty funny. We must have a bunch of Aussies on right now, man. They're going crazy. I love it.
Yeah.
Astronomy Ale. It's out of this world.
Let's ask them. Hey, Aussies, should Pat come along with us to Cairns? Huh?
Yes.
This November.
I like that idea, man. This is because we could do a live show from a brewery or a bar down there. What do you think?
I like it.
What feed are you looking at, Paul, right now? Are you what feed is that?
This is Broome Australia still.
Oh, they zoomed in. Okay.
Yeah, and every once in a while I'm
Oh, you got the
clicking some of
Norway
the Norwegian feeds in as well, which are they're really lovely images.
Yeah, we gotta. So the next big event. So Bob, we're gonna do a live universe show next week. So just letting everyone know, that's the one thing we should get up for the people who are still here. We do shows all the time. They're not all as big as the transit is, but we still do interesting shows nonetheless. And we got to do one next week, Bob. So I'll schedule that with you. And we got to bring back Dan. I want Dan to get on one of these.
I knew you'd like him. I knew you guys would like him.
He's a character. He was going off. I mean, I was like, does he breathe? He was rambling, man. Did you follow him? Could you follow what he was saying?
Of course I followed what he was saying. But that's what he's like. You wind him up, and then you just let him go.
I mean, he was going off, man. I was like, whoa. But we have to get him on with the Galaxies show. I mean, that'd be awesome to bring him in.
Yes,
like
absolutely. Because that's his field. Absolutely.
That would be awesome. So I love that one. All right, man. We're getting wrapped up here soon, huh? Where are we at?
So we're pretty much at the end of our transit of Venus, and so until 2117, this is goodbye. This is goodbye to seeing Venus and the Sun in the same breath.
So So Bob, you're telling me that we're gonna have to chop your head off after you pass away and freeze it? Is that how in order for us to see the next one?
No, that's Matt's thing. You're mixing me up with Matt. That's
Matt, are you seriously considering this?
Well, I know Paul's going to say something.
Well, no, I'd do it. I would seriously do it. I'd love to be cryogenically frozen. Why not? If you can't lose the bet, can you?
Well,
if you don't,
no.
you're not going to come back.
No, it's the Brits that coined that expression anyway. Quit while you're ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there really is a logic to it. I mean, if you have they put your head in it, they fill your brain with a vitreous solution, which is used actually in transmission electron microscopy to make samples survive the electron beam longer. And the idea is that in the far future, they figure out how to repair the cellular damage caused by death.
Yeah.
And if they have that kind of technology, growing you a new body isn't going to be a problem.
Well, one of the most critical things in that whole process is how quickly they can process your deceased body, and they actually have special units to collect people. So it's yeah, I mean it's been going on for a very long time. I think there's some fairly famous people in some of those storage tanks.
Yeah.
I think that's what Chuck's going to be doing with that keg.
No, any reason that anybody can now to our transit cover, figure out what we're about this.
Bob, your audio on my end is
Bob, yeah, you've turned into a... Would you stop drinking?
Like a Dalek in Doctor Who. Exterminate.
Can you... Bob, is your connection?
No.
It's better now.
You might have to You might have to leave and come back.
Well, you know what? Still bad.
That's bad. You want to sign off?
Okay.
You're going to take off, or you're going to come back?
Yeah, I'll come back.
All right.
I did that once before.
I have an effect on my computer kind of audio device that you can switch to make you sound like that. I think it's called a robot or something.
Oh, man.
So this has been like a
people in
Jerry
the
Lewis telethon, really funner.
Say again, I talked over you.
Sorry, Paul, I just said that this has been like a Jerry Lewis telethon, only more fun.
It has been. We have to give one more promotional speech, though, Paul, before we get off.
Well, I'm still trying to give you some of these Norwegian images as they're still coming in. They're updating pretty quickly. But they've actually got more feeds online now than they managed to get on earlier. Are those feeds happening live as well? 10 feeds.
I mean, is this all happening? Do people see this differently around the world? Or
Yes, they do. Yeah, that's what I was saying to Bob. You know, and that's how they can measure these distances, Pat, by measuring when people see it around the globe.
Right.
This is interesting. There's a little bit of a prominence on this image. I saw it earlier. It's the only image that I've actually seen it in. This looks like the calcium K image, filtered image from Norway once again. Australia hasn't updated for a while, so I suspect that the next time we see that, we're not going to see any kind of chunk taken out of the side of it.
Yeah, I'm looking at Norway's feed. Yeah, hockey laka daka daka.
It's funny. You have problems with that word. Haleakala.
Haleakala. It's because I've been doing this for 8 hours.
Yeah, sleep deprivation.
Oh man, this has just been a.
Oh, there's a nice one from Norway. That you can see on here. There's quite a few groups of sunspots visible still. On here, I don't know if you can see these, but there's a couple of down here, and then another pair up here, and then Venus just reaching.
And incidentally, we should point out that those sunspots, those major groupings, are in exactly the position where they can send stuff towards Earth. When the sun has brought a sunspot to the exact middle, plus 2 more days of sun rotation, that's when the spot is positioned so that it will follow what's called this Parker spiral and reach Earth. So I would expect that we are going to see auroras in the next few days, and have here at Slooh.
So Bob, you want to fly back up to Alaska and do a live show again?
Next year.
I might join you in that one. That'd be a fun one too.
You would love it. I'd love for you to come.
I'll be
there. And Matt's coming next year.
Well, yeah, you bet I am.
Dude,
a lot of people listening, Pat. A lot of people listening won't know what kind of events we've had on over the last year, but if you actually start counting them up and going through them, we've had a really good, varied number of events. What have we had over the last year?
Well, we had the annular solar eclipse a couple of weeks ago. We had a live show of the auroras in Alaska with Bob. We've done a bunch of conjunctions events. We've done events on Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, the moon. So the comet, remember the asteroid? Was that an asteroid that was coming in or a comet? I was trying to remember which one that...
We had an asteroid. We had a near-Earth asteroid. That was a good one. Matt and I were imaging. Matt, if you remember, Matt Francis was imaging from the Prescott Observatory in Arizona.
That's right.
I was up here using the Slooh telescope manually for that night. That was a difficult one, wasn't it, Matt?
That was ridiculous.
Fast-moving object, tracking it across the sky was rather stressful.
Yeah, it was. That was a big event, really, too. The media really. I mean, some of these events get really big unexpectedly because if the press picks up the story, it really makes a huge difference. So
yeah, suddenly everybody wants to see it.
Well, you know what drove me nuts is that, you know, we did this great Saturn show and it was a nice event, but then the week later it was the supermoon. Like the media picked up on this big supermoon story that was non-story. And it was funny how it just became, you know, a big deal for no reason at all, because it was like basically a full moon.
That's right. And they ignored the closest and most beautiful Saturn in the last 5 years.
Right. I mean, you know, it's like, okay. So, you know, what's funny is the annular eclipse. I knew it was going to be pretty big, but what made it bigger was the tagline that everyone was going off on, was the Ring of Fire.
Ring of Fire, yeah.
Ring of Fire! Everyone just loved it. I mean, it was just everywhere. The Ring of Fire. So it just spread like wildfire.
We should have been playing that Johnny Cash song in the background throughout it.
Yeah.
There is a little bit of snobbery around that, you know, that serious astronomers and others sometimes don't like to use that kind of terminology, but unfortunately we are fighting, you know, all of us really interested in getting science and astronomy out to the public. And sometimes actually you have to play the media game, you know, to get people to your event so you can do what you want to do, which is expose people to the real fascinating stuff, not the myth and legend, but the real facts, because when you start understanding those, you know, it's absolutely far more awe-inspiring than any myth could be.
That's right.
Well, and let's not forget, guys, about the lunar eclipses we did. I mean, we've done like 3 of those at least, and one with Google, which was gigantic, and that was quite fun and entertaining as well.
Did Google do anything today on the Google Doodle? I didn't.
I have no idea. No idea. I don't think so. But
meanwhile, here's our final feeds of showing Venus at the very edge. So this is it.
Yeah, in the Australia feed that you can see at the moment in the Hangout, it's gone. As Bob said, Venus has disappeared once again into the blackness. When are we going to be seeing this as a morning star again, Bob?
Well, if you have a good view toward the east, in as little as 2 weeks, you'll see it low in the east as a morning star. 2 weeks is not even that difficult, but for everybody, in early July, Venus will be high and incredibly brilliant and easy to see throughout the whole month of July.
That's good.
You just have to get up before dawn, an hour before dawn, 45 minutes before dawn even, and look in the direction of the sunrise. You can't miss it. And it's going to be there in that place for the entire rest of the year until early December. But it'll be at its best throughout July, next month.
yeah, well, we haven't really, Paul, we have to look at the celestial calendar a little bit because we haven't paid much attention to it lately because we've been so tied up with these big events. So let's definitely start looking onto June and see if there's anything in particular that would be of interest to do. I think we should.
Well, and people should ask as well. You know, that if people are interested in us covering a certain event or certain subjects, they should just let us know. There's just an image up there at the moment. Anthony from Australia has popped up a little image of one of the sunspot groups, which is
it's beautiful,
nice.
Just beautiful. You can really see the classical umbra and penumbral shapes around the sunspot group. And I should point out to everybody that whenever the sunspots move across the sun and they're going from left to right, the leading spot has a magnetic polarity that's different from the next spot. So if the leading spot is positive, the next spot will be negative. And those giant prominences of plasma, broken bits of atoms, go up from one spot and go to the other one. So we're actually seeing these magnetic connections. Each one of these sunspots are places where the magnetism is 3,000 times stronger than it is on the rest of the sun. So they're places of bottlenecks, magnetic bottlenecks that are preventing solar material from oozing up from underneath the sun's surface. And because slower material is cooler material, that's why they're black. Because the material has to slow down to come up because of that awesome magnetic field. And that's a sunspot, period. It's very simple.
Well, this has been a tremendous event. I want to do a special shout out to, also I didn't mention Thomas O'Toole and Matt Marula. They really have helped out a lot with this event. They did an awesome job. And, you know, Thomas does a lot of the back-end code for the viewer and all the things that we do here. And, you know, I'm always worried and nagging him days before these events, making sure this stuff works, and it always works, which is great. And Matt, we also appreciate all your help and all the things you do for Slooh as well. Paul, thank you again, man. You've been awesome, and you know, a lot of the feeds that we're getting tonight are because of Paul's hard work, and they're not easy to get. I mean, it's very difficult what we do. You know, Slooh does this stuff. We make it look easy, but it's not easy, and that's why we're really the only game in town that can do it well. And certainly people come out of the woodworks when these big events happen, but you know, Slooh's the place to come to enjoy these types of events on an ongoing basis. And of course, we got Bob here, who's been a longtime friend of Slooh. You know, Bob's a well-respected writer and astronomer. He writes for Astronomy Magazine. He's written his book. Well, many books, but this is the book. Bob, I'm giving you some promo here. The Sun's Heartbeat. You know, it's a great book. I actually read it. Believe it or not, I actually read it, and it was a good. I loved it. I mean, it's a very entertaining read. What was that, Paul? Are you saying something?
I love Bob's writing, both in the magazine and books, because it just makes so many subjects accessible. Yeah, I'm not a clever guy. I need stuff explained to me. That's why I asked Bob to repeat all of these lovely little snippets in these shows, and he says them so quickly, and I want to say that again. How fast was it going? How big was it? You know. So,
well, thanks, Paul. Thanks. It's a pleasure. And
yeah,
of course,
I mean,
I'm proud to be here with Slooh. This is a world-class, record-breaking enterprise, something that didn't even exist, couldn't have existed in the past. And just to be able to share this rare event with very possibly over 1 million people tonight, and to bring along the people from all over the world. I mean, just right now, the 4 of us who are here are in upstate New York, Southern California, Arizona, and the Canary Islands, just the 4 of us. And we've had experts from all over the world tonight, in New Zealand and in Britain, and explaining this, narrating this, and bringing this event to the attention of millions of people who were now able to see it themselves. So a big salute to everybody in Slooh. This was absolutely fabulous, and I think we're done with it now, aren't we?
Yep, I'm just flicking through the very last Norwegian images, and there is no sign.
Okay, I've just made a decision. We're going to go for another 10 hours.
Let's call his bluff, gents. Yeah, we will if you will, Pat.
That's very funny. Very funny.
Yeah, I got a mannequin. I'm just going to put him right in the front of the thing and let Bob talk.
No, I would need those, you know, those special glasses that have wide awake eyes painted on the middle of them. You know, those sunglasses, so you can you look like you're still awake. No,
yes,
it's getting late here. It's in the wee hours of the morning now. So
yeah, Bob, why don't you get off? And I appreciate you coming on as always. You know, it's late, so definitely, you know, jump off.
Thank you, gentlemen.
And again,
thank you.
We'll catch up in the next couple of days.
Good. Good night
sure,
to you
Bob.
all.
Thanks, buddy.
Good night.
Good night,
Thank
buddy.
You, Bob.
Good night.
And then, hey, Matt, I just want to say thanks to you, too. I mean, feed partners are so important for this stuff. And I have to say, it's been a pleasure working with you over the last months. You're a great guy, and, you know, the feeds you provide are world-class as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah,
and you know, the stuff you put out are just amazing, and I'm looking forward to doing more stuff with you. So I'm hoping that we can...
I appreciate that, Paul. And, yeah, it's been really fun, and it's a great way for me to be able to meet one of the goals of my facility, to do public outreach through webcasting, through Slooh, and I love it.
Well, you raised the game. You really do, Matt.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a good example. And, you know, Paul, as we talked about before, we've got to keep the ball rolling with our feed partners so we can do more of this programming. You know, I think
let me just give my email address out one more time to people. If you're interested, you've got some equipment, and you're not really using it, then let Slooh give it a purpose. Give me an email, paul@slooh.com. All right, email me, and we'll get together.
That'd be awesome. So before we get off, you know, as Paul's brought up several times, you know, membership is so important to driving this. You know, that's really how this is supported, and we want to give a big shout out to our members for helping us with this, because their fees help fund the free programming. So please consider it. There's a membership link on the Slooh homepage. We do have a special offer today only. In fact, I'm going to turn it off in like the next 10 to 15, 20 minutes. It's a free offer to get a telescope, a Meade telescope, a quality Meade telescope that Paul's actually performed a demo on the Slooh.com homepage. So you can get more information about it. You can even see images coming out of it. So we've even given you a first-hand look of what's possible with it. And Paul's even offered, I didn't even know this, but he's offering to even help you out to use it. And we'll probably do special hangout shows around the Meade telescope. So you know, once you become a Slooh member, you're engaged with the membership. You'll be a part of everyone enjoying not only controlling massive observatories in the Canary Islands, but you also have access to an entry-level scope to practice on and if you get really into the hobby, then you can go to the next level and spend the thousands of dollars it really requires to get, detailed deep sky imaging.
Pat, there's a very small problem with what you've just said there. You're saying that the promotion is going to last another 10 minutes, but if people have just found out about it, my video lasts 12. Now I know why you wanted me to do a 1 or 2 minute video. They're gonna watch my promo for 12 minutes. All right?
It's over.
And then they're going to get online to order, and you've closed it down 2 minutes before. Go on, extend it.
Exactly.
Do it 15 minutes time.
That's the thing with Paul. I asked Paul to make a 1 to 2 minute video, and I said, make it quick, And he was kind of doing it, and Paul, where's this video, man? Come on, get the video. Where's the video? And he got it done today, and I got it, and it's 12 minutes. I'm like, whoa. But it's good. I mean, it gives a lot of information, and you could certainly, bounce around it. But yeah, it's a good video. So it gives you details on both the Slooh observatories and the Meade telescope you get. So it's a lot of good info. But I just want to stress that's for only the U.S. customers only. It says that on the promo. So it's because of the shipping cost that we have to charge. It's just too expensive to ship it over to Canada and or overseas. So anyway, guys, I know the actual event is actually scheduled longer. I think I just threw in a random long time. So I'm going to switch this off. Is there any feeds coming in at all, or are we pretty much dead?
Norway is still coming in, but they're not actually.
What's coming in, Paul? Is the Japan one.
The transit. Obviously, the transit has gone. Is that coming in? He's actually on a little bit of a time lag.
Right.
Kugaya. He does a lot of post-processing work to his images. So we've only been getting those kind of every 15 minutes or something like that. So yeah. But yeah, the transit is over.
The transit's I have to wait 100 years now for the next one. Jeez.
I have a way you can do that.
That is just, is there a brochure for this? You got to get a brochure. I want to see this brochure that they give you.
All right, guys, I'm going to sign off too. It's been great.
All right, Matt.
With you, and I'll see you on the next show.
Thank you, Matt. Superb images.
All right.
That'll be awesome, buddy. I'll be in touch. We'll be in touch soon.
Okay.
So let me just see here, Paul. I'm going to edit this a little bit, the timing, because we're winding down here.
Okay, well, while you're doing that, I would just like to mention a few people that I've been dealing with over the last couple of weeks on this. Not everybody was able to come the full distance with us, but an awful lot of people put in a huge amount of work. So we've got, let me see, we've got Donna Burton. She's Operational Support Manager at the Siding Spring Observatory. They didn't manage to get any images to us today, but they really had done a huge amount to bend over backward to help us out, trying to get a feed up. We spoke to Dr. Karen Pollard. She's Director at Mount John University Observatory, University of Canterbury in New Zealand. Likewise, they did a huge amount to try and lay this on for us around all of their existing public outreach events. So that was a huge effort on their part. Had Kelly Beattie, who's Senior Contributing Editor at Sky and Telescope magazine. We were going to get a live report from him from Point Venus in Tahiti, but unfortunately we couldn't call out to him. We've got the guys at Sydney Observatory. The live video feed didn't come on to start off with, but when it did come in, it sustained us having our live video feed all the way from the Sydney Observatory. That's Tona Stevenson and his crew down at the Powerhouse Museum in Australia. And then we've got two stalwarts, two individual guys who have done a huge amount for us, and today their feeds were some of the most consistent. We've got Anthony Wesley. He was the Broom feed, the one that you can still see up on the screen with the sun shots. He's in Australia. And then we got Freddie Willems. He was doing some fabulous colour images for us today. Pat's going to tell us where that was. Where was that, Pat?
Oahu.
That's the one. That's the one.
That's the one I can get. That's the one Hawaii one I can actually pronounce.
Another group of guys that I did a lot of work with in New Zealand over the last week or so, Phoenix Astronomical Society, they did a huge amount with Paul Moss down there. Unfortunately, I haven't yet found out why they couldn't actually get any images to us, but that was a great shame because that was going to look really promising, but they still did a huge amount of work. Joe Brimacombe in Cairns, Australia, he's helped us out. Christopher Go gave us some lovely images from the Philippines today, as did Kagaya. He's the space artist in Japan. He was imaging from Kobe. We got Per Magnus Hedin. He was in Sweden. He was weathered out, I'm afraid. And then we've got probably the biggest group that have helped us out tonight. They've gave us full access to 17 odd image feeds that they were using. In Norway, University of Oslo, Knut Usgaard, and his team have done an absolutely sterling effort. They were writing software for us and setting up servers specifically for us. So you know the amount of effort you can see that goes on behind it. And really anybody that I've forgotten to mention there, you know, it's a bit like an award ceremony, but there were an awful lot of people that I've been in contact with over the last few weeks, and I would just like to thank them all hugely for their efforts, and hopefully we can tie up with them all again.
Yeah, and I want to a couple more there, Paul, that I was working with, and with Matt. The Holly Akala feed out of Hawaii, Hayden Huntley, J.D. Armstrong, Rob Rakowski, and the IFA staff out there. They did a great job. That feed, it started out a little shaky, but it really came together near the end, so it was awesome. And of course, the University of New Mexico, who we actually worked with on the annular solar eclipse, they did an awesome job too. Richard Rand, who's an astronomy professor over there, Daniel Zerzo, Pete Zimmer, Bob Amadal, and Steve Welch are the names that come together there for that. Steve Welch is actually a part of the Albuquerque Astronomical Society. So again, you know, all these feed partners it's imperative that we have the opportunity to work with them, because you know, these events are so difficult to put on. And as you can tell from even our show tonight, there was quite a few feeds offline just because of weather pops in and out, or a technical issue, or what have you. So that's why we have to provide so many. It's just the way it works, and that's the only way really to guarantee a good show. So,
and on that point, Pat, if people were wondering why we actually left some of those up, you know, with images coming shortly, with such a long event, we had some feeds only join us half and 3/4 of the way through because the weather cleared. So that's why we left them up in the image slots.
Well, we're down to like the last 4 minutes, Paul. I did change the settings in the event viewer, so it will flick over to record mode. You know, we can still be broadcasting here. You know, again, guys, if you can't afford a membership to Slooh, please consider a contribution of some amount. If you just click on the membership link, you'll see that. It really helps help us recruit guys like Bob Berman to participate in the shows, and it's imperative. You know, we had Dr. Lucy Green, who's a well-respected BBC contributor out of the UK. You know, you could tell when she was on, she was awesome, as she always is. And you know, getting these people you know, these guys don't come, they don't work for free. It's the bottom line, long story short. So we need them to participate, because their skills are so high. And so
yeah, think of it this
Paul, any last
way.
thoughts?
Think of it this way. Without people like Bob and Dr. Lucy Green, you'd be stuck with me and Pat. Now there's an incentive. There's an incentive to give a donation.
We'd be doing more interviews with Chuck from the bar.
Beer killers, yeah.
Yeah, in fact, I want to thank Chuck. You know, Chuck was it was awesome, man. I really, you know, the transitofvenus.org site, he's very passionate about it, and it was great to work with him, and it was fun.
It was a bit of fun, but he had some very serious aims behind everything he was doing there.
Right, exactly. I mean, he was definitely having fun with it, but he was definitely, and he's right, you know, it's got to make space and science, you know, fun. I mean, I think that's what's missing a lot. People look at it as a bore fest or what have you, and it's, you know, it's kind of the goal of Slooh, is to make it more fun to do. So I'm excited about working with him on other projects. We'll have to come up with some new beers. All right, Paul. Well, I think that's it, man. I don't know if there's
That's a
anything
wrap.
else left to be broadcasting. So, look, if you guys are seriously thinking about being a member, please note that that offer will be taken off shortly. So please consider it. The Meade Telescope offered.
Yeah. And seriously, if anybody's got any queries with that stuff, email me, paul@slooh.com. Doesn't matter what it is. Throw an email over to me. I've got nothing to do here, so.
Yeah, Paul, get some. Is it morning there? What time is it?
Yeah, it's 6:15 in the morning.
Okay, I want you to go right up to the observatories.
Go
and,
straight up to Dome 2 and fix that telescope. Okay.
Yeah,
yes,
fix
boss.
that thing for us, please. Please. That thing's driving me nuts. All right, Paul. Well, it was a great show. I appreciate it, buddy. And we'll
Well,
talk
a big thank you to you,
days.
Pat, because you done a huge amount of management work behind this. It does take a huge amount setting this up, and you're a one-man band, and you do a lot. And you must have walked about 10 miles just during this last 6 hours.
Yeah,
the way you pace up and down your office.
I know. That's funny. I watch these shows, and I do pace a lot, but that's why I put I have my running shoes on. It's
tie your laces together.
I know. I'll take a fall over. All right, man. I'm gonna sign off myself.
Yep.
All
Okay.
right, man. Take care.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye-bye, everyone. For Slooh Space Camera, it's Patrick Palucci. Thanks.
From Freddie Williams, in Oahu.
Oahu.
Is that it?
Oahu. Go Oahu.
I'll never get it right. And he's been doing an absolutely sterling job as well. But he has told us that he has got the threat of rain, so we may be losing that feed. And I believe Japan has also been lost because of rain. But you'll see in the Hangout that we've still got our very own live feed from the Sydney Observatory in Australia.
Right.
They've laid this on especially for us. The Pat might actually click on it so it turns big in the Hangout so everybody can see it. But it's the live video that you can see in the Hangout. So thank you.
That's great. Thanks for that update. And Dan, let me ask Dan something because this guy's great. When I was up at the Las Campanas some years ago, he gave me a great line for an article later. He was looking at galaxies, and he said, "This thing, I'm measuring 4,000 galaxies at once." He said, "It's an all-you-can-eat kind of a thing." An all-you-can-eat kind of thing. I love that. So Dan, why don't you talk about anything astronomical that this transit reminds you of, or doesn't remind you of, for our listeners? Anything that interests you, Dan.
Dan, can you hear us?
His microphone is off.
Dan, is your microphone off?
Yeah, check at the top of the page there. See to make sure it's on. Your microphone, right on the top of the screen there. Make sure the mute isn't on.
Yeah, he said it's on. I mean, I can see. I'm a lip reader.
Are you really?
No. But I got that part.
Amongst many other talents.
Dan, if you're having problems, you may want to log out and come back in. So Bob, why don't you take over for a little bit while Dan comes back?
Okay, well, we are now in our last maybe hour and a half of the transit. It's been a very, very exciting transit. I'm very proud of Slooh having been able to get all these feeds from all these places. It doesn't matter that some places were snowed out, clouded out. We've had over a dozen live feeds. We've watched Venus parade across the sun, and we know that nobody who's living is going to ever see this again. So those of us who are here, it's almost like a fraternity. And those of you who are here joining us, you listeners and you viewers, thank you. It's like we're all together in this. And Dan, are you with us now with audio?
Here we go. Let's try this. Did this work? Am I back?
Yeah,
Hello?
I can hear you. Not as good, but we can hear you.
Yeah, I switched. There we go.
That's good. That's good now.
Great. They're a little too loud, probably. I think I've switched cameras, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, we see you as a still right now, so.
There you go. Now you're moving. Okay, go ahead. Proceed, Dan.
I switched cameras. I knew there was a reason I grabbed 2 cameras, just to be sure I had a backup, but I don't know if I have a third. So this actually over here I might have another one. So this afternoon at work here, out in the courtyard, which you can't see, one of the people here at Carnegie set up some small refractors, and one had a nice solar blank filter, neutral density filter. Another one had a nice H-alpha filter, hydrogen blind filter, which was beautiful to look through. Now, I haven't looked at the sun through a telescope since I was, 10 years old. No, really, because I had a small refractor, and of course, at some point, you graduate to bigger telescopes, and you stop looking at the sun because you just don't have stuff to do it anymore. And I used to, when I was a boy, actually go out and look at the sun, and you know what? You forget. I mean, yes, intellectually, it's this big ball of gas, and it's, of course, you only go at night, like the old joke says, right? So it's terribly catastrophic on the surface, right? It's the apocalypse at all times. And you look through a telescope, you see it. But you don't see that without a telescope, right? So you can see the prominences, and you can see the convection on the surface when you're looking through the hydrogen filter. Right? You just see it. And as we said earlier, this is a sensory field. When you can get out and look through a telescope, it's tactile. You get that sense of the textures. And really, it's been years since I've done that. Yeah, I look at the moon with my son through his small telescope, and yes, that has a surface to it. That has some texture to it. But the sun itself, right? It's the thing that gives us everything, right? Life. It's all our energy, right? So you look at it, and it's alive with flame and heat. Well, flame's the wrong word, but you know what I'm saying. It's amazing. Anyway, so it's just one of those rare events. Again, another lifetime or two before it happens again, and I'll never get to do it. But it's just amazing to see things so close you could grab them. It's just phenomenal.
Isn't that great? Don't you love this guy, guys? Isn't he great? Did you hear what he said? It's the apocalypse at all times. Isn't that great?
I don't know about that, but it's just that it's you can well, you wouldn't touch it, but you could reach out and you get the dimensionality of it, right? That's what's great about looking through telescopes at the sun, the moon, the planets. You can adjust the focus, you get the depth of the object. And, I look through big telescopes, I love it, but you don't get that sense of the real physicality of stuff until you go outside and you look at an event like this, and it's just amazing, right? A whole planet passing between us and the sun. It's just great.
What time is it where you are? Where are you, Dan? What time of day is it?
It is 7:46 p.m. or something like that in my office in
This is Patrick with Slooh Space Camera. We're just getting set back up. Bear with us. Should only take a few minutes here to get rolling again as we set things up again. We will be broadcasting shortly. We just had a little of an outage here, but it's coming back. Audio will be back shortly. Hold on 1 second. You may need to refresh your pages. Okay.
Can you hear me, Pat?
Yes, I'm getting things back up and running again. I apologize, man. I don't know why it kicked everyone out again. But we're back. I'm just making sure it's working on the home page. You may have to refresh. Let me just see how we're looking. Yeah, it's there. So I'm going to send out a quick tweet. And we should have others coming in.
Yep, there's Bob.
Bob's back.
Paul.
I'm going to send out a quick tweet, let everyone know. Now, my hand is killing. I'm holding, like, my mouse, this angle I got to do my mouse at is just a killer.
I wanted to give you an hour break, my friend. You can't complain.
Man.
I know, man.
But was your presentation recorded, Bob?
No, not recorded. I could have.
Well, that's a shame.
But I didn't. No.
That's a shame.
All right, you guys keep rolling. I'm going to do some maintenance here, if you don't mind. So,
well, then
Bob,
you know what?
take
The
over.
three of us? Okay. Well, what we've got
I'm going to
here.
put this right here.
Oh, you have to go raise it a little bit. Can't quite see the title. There we go. A little better. There it is. The sun's
There, I'm just going to.
The sun's heartbeat. I hear
There,
that's
boss.
I hear that's one of the best science books ever written. The sun's heartbeat.
Is that good?
Who's the author of that? I can't read it.
The author. I can't read it. What was the author, Matt? Could you read that?
It says
It was
Bob
Dr.
Berman.
Lucy Grew. Is that you like that, Bob? Yeah, Bob. You always.
You know, the
you actually
publisher,
see the
Little
writing
Brown.
there?
Yeah, well, just barely. The publisher tells me, listen, you can never give a talk and not mention your newest book. You can't do it. Don't do it.
Yeah,
In any
I'm putting
case,
it
let's
there
get
now.
back. Let's get back to the transit because it's still cool, still going on. Still got another hour and a half left to chug along, and look at that image that we're looking at now. Isn't that gorgeous? Venus is so round, isn't it? Looks like a. It looks. You know what? What's weird about it is that a sunspot in that same position on the sun would be foreshortened because since a sunspot is on the photosphere, it has an angle to it when it's near the edge, but that the Venus doesn't. So it obviously is an intruder. It looks like something that is in front of the sun and not on the sun. So all those people who wonder about, well, how do you tell the difference between a sunspot? Boy, you couldn't mistake it, could you?
No, that's for sure.
All right, guys. I'm gonna hop off for 10 minutes.
Okay, well, we'll cover the
next-
conversation.
Yeah, you
'cause
guys
we've
cover
got,
the conversation.
You know, I know from
Dan's
past
coming on.
experience that we've got Dan Kelson coming on. Is he ready to come on now? Because he's a great guy.
He'll be on in like 10 minutes, like
Okay.
5-10 minutes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back and get him on, and then you guys can have at it again, and I'll have a little break as well. So
Okay, this is good
I'll
because
work
you
my
know
breaks in.
because Paul Cox and Matt Francis, these are brilliant guys, and we'll carry on the conversation here. In fact, I want to hear Paul express his views about what would you like to see Slooh do later this year? What kind of celestial event would you look most forward to, since you're the one who's the behind-the-scenes person here, Paul?
Well, I think it's got to be the total solar eclipse. I mean, they're just wonderful to look at, aren't they? The next one's in November, is that correct?
I don't know. I hear this one in November.
You're going to it, aren't you?
Yes.
Aren't you travelling down and taking a shoot tour with you?
Yes. Yeah, we're trying to get Pat to come too. He's non-committal about it.
I've never seen what I would consider to be a proper total eclipse. You know, where all the build-up to totality and the build down from totality has been visible. I remember one when I was at school. And then this one that you remembered very well, the date of, Bob, a number of years ago in the UK. So I would actually love to travel, but unfortunately, because I fixed up all of these partners, it means I don't have to travel. So Pat doesn't let me go anywhere, see.
I got to keep you close to the observatories. You're not allowed to travel within. You got to keep within a 500-mile radius.
All right, somebody has to take the bullet.
But I think the other thing, Bob, the other thing that I think we're long overdue for is...
Pasadena.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you can still hear me, but it's it's 7:45 in Pasadena. So yeah, so that's enough about Venus. I mean, that just still blows my mind that if we lived on it, we'd never learn anything. But but what's nice is
Yeah, it's like the House of Representatives.
I can't wait to hear that. You mean the apocalypse at all times?
No, I mean Venus.
Oh, totally open.
Apocalypse. Oh, that's good. You guys are funny.
Well,
The apocalypse. Yeah, that and our friends in Europe. So, you guys, so what we're going to see here, we're going near the end here, as you can see on the feeds on Slooh, where the Venus is making its way out from the sun right now. Is that right, Bob? What's going on?
Well, we want to look for the black drop because this is the thing that twisted the minds of so many people in the 18th and 19th centuries. They tried to make timings. That's what the whole thing was about. The whole business was when exactly was Venus tangent to the inside of the sun. And this got totally messed up because just as Venus got to the edge, like a drop of water, like a strait, like a canal, like a black ink drop, looked like it came from space toward Venus to meet it. And so I want to see this happen directly. This is a diffraction effect that any of our listeners or viewers can do right now. If you put your hand up and close one eye, try it, and put your hand against a bright object, like facing a bright wall, close one eye, and bring your fingers closer and closer together very slowly. It's important to do this. And then you'll see that before your fingers touch, before they quite touch, there'll be a black something, a mysterious black something that goes from one finger to the other and makes contact before the fingers have made contact. Now, this is I believe, a diffraction effect, and that's exactly what Venus is going to do with outer space when it reaches the edge of the sun. It was a confounding phenomenon, and we're going to witness it very soon.
just mind the gap. That's right. So that gap just disappears. It's pretty amazing to do that. I like doing that. I still do that. I'm 43 years old, but I still occasionally say, my goodness, look at that. That's just amazing. So this afternoon, when we had ingress and Venus actually, started doing what it was supposed to do, I just missed the black drop at that moment. By a minute or 10 seconds or something. I don't know, but I missed it. So it'll be nice to get a feed of it now. I did.
Okay, and I hope one of our people provides that precise moment of feed, and then we can all take pictures of it and remind people for the next 105 years that the black drop is real, just like that little thing between our fingers is real. Dan, what are you working on these days at Carnegie? I know it's not a secret.
You remember, so at Las Campanas, when you came and visited, I described how I was observing thousands of galaxies at a time. And so we have, on one of our large telescopes, this is the Bada telescope at Magellan. It's a 6.5 meter primary mirror, so you're talking pretty hefty size. And it gives us a wide field of view to study distant galaxies, to do surveys of the night sky. And just to give you an idea, we can collect spectra and disperse the light from thousands of galaxies at once over a piece of the sky the size of a full moon. And that's how we can do thousands of galaxies at once. And if I can collect little tiny spectra to get the blue light, the red light, the green light, and see features in the spectra from the hydrogen lines and from the calcium lines and the iron lines, then I can measure the Doppler shifts of those features and measure essentially the cosmological distances to all of these galaxies. And if I can do this in a number of pieces of the sky, I can build up a pretty good picture of what the universe looked like 7 billion years ago, or actually all the way back to 9 billion years ago. And by looking then at thousands of galaxies, hopefully about 150,000 galaxies, from a time when the universe was a third of its current age, galaxies look different then. And I can go in steps and look at different epochs in the universe and understand how did galaxies go from looking like they did then to looking like they do today. Are there more today? Are they more massive? Was there more merging that was going on to build up today's galaxies? And there are lots of surveys that are doing this, but ours is particularly comprehensive. And the one that I'm doing, that I've been doing for several years now, we've been very careful to go and target galaxies in as unbiased a way as possible to really get an assessment, an accurate assessment, a census of the amount of mass in stars from that epoch till today. And it's very difficult, it's tricky, and it's unbelievably fun. It's probably been, so far it's been 80 nights on that particular telescope, another 50 nights between the 4-meter telescopes at Kitt Peak and Cerro Tololo, using their infrared camera, and a whole bunch of optical data from a range of other telescopes. So it's really marrying a tremendous number of data sets and new data products in a way that just hasn't really been done before. Woo-hoo.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, we love it. We love it. That was great.
That was great, man. That was awesome. That was great.
You're supposed to say that when I'm actually done, not when. Anyway, we've gotten a couple.
Mind blown. I was like, my mind almost exploded. I love it. So, you guys,
is there any preliminary results that surprise you?
You realize that when you've left the mountain, you think, hey, I didn't actually go and see the telescope.
I didn't see it.
It could have been a black box in there with a slide projector, and someone's just, a little gnome or gremlin is flipping and changing the pictures and giving you fake data. You just forget to look at the telescope sometimes. And so it's nice when something like this happens, you go outside, it's real astronomy, it connects you with this, this vast history that's been built up over the ages using events like this, right? I study distant galaxies, and that's great, but when you can go and do something like this, what does that mean? It ties you directly to the kinds of things that were done hundreds of years ago. It's exciting.
This is kind of it's tactile astronomy, isn't it?
That's right. That's right. And it's exactly that. It's not only tactile. It reminds you why we should all be glad that we live on a planet that does not have an atmosphere like Venus. I mean, apart from the fact that it's hot and the pressures are bad. But I mean, we have clear skies, right? I mean, if pity the poor souls who live on a planet that's full of clouds like Venus. You can't look up and see transits. You can't discover. I don't even know how you would discover the laws of physics if you didn't live on a planet.
You wouldn't see a star. You wouldn't see anything. You wouldn't even see the sun, would you? You wouldn't.
No.
You'd know that there was a heat source and a light source close to you. But
Could you measure the circumference of your planet? Probably not. Could you discover what was causing your tides if you were lucky enough to have the oceans? Right? Could you discover all sorts of things, the scale of the universe you lived on? So you get an event like this, and you're just connected immediately to, the real scale and scope of physics, of, the history of the laws of motion. It's just exciting. Sorry, I'm just babbling because it's.
No, keep going, Dad. It's great. This is fascinating.
But it's
that's very interesting, and you bring up a good point about the laws of physics and our understanding of them. That's a good point about Venus, but even about Earth. If Earth could endure for another 4 billion years or so, the expansion of the universe will have moved everything so far, with the exception of the local group of galaxies, out that our understanding of our universe would be completely different than it is now.
Absolutely. It's quite a special time. In fact, we live in such a special time where the acceleration of the universe due to dark energy is more or less the same order of magnitude as the gravitational pull of all of the matter and energy density. So we're able to essentially measure both the dark matter content of the universe and the dark energy content of the universe. And as you say, in 4 billion years, it would be very difficult to measure the dark matter content of the universe, but you could sure get the dark energy. But that's it.
Right.
So it's quite a special time to measure all sorts of things about our universe.
Hey, is that Dan?
Hi. I have a lot less hair now than I used to.
It was only a few years ago. Yeah,
Well, you know, 2 children. Sorry. Of course, they're watching you.
2 children will do it. Look. 2 children will do it.
I thought that was the flying. I thought that's flying in a rickety airplane that does that.
No, you're looking good, Dan. Good seeing you.
It's good to see you. You've got a nice big image on my screen, so that's great.
And that airplane isn't so rickety. I've been in it. It's very nice.
Well, thank you.
I haven't. I'm being unfair. It's true.
Well, you know what? When you come east with the family, if you want to put their lives at risk.
Maybe one at a time, or my wife and I will fly separately. I don't know how we should do that.
There's a bunch of pilots on this hangout. Yeah, Paul's a pilot. I'm a pilot.
Wow.
Anyone else a pilot? Matt, are you a pilot?
It's self-selecting, right?
I'm a pilot only in my car.
Yeah, I think Matt's got fast cars, I think. So.
No, you know what Matt did? We met because I was giving a talk, Dan, out at NIST, you know, the National Institute of Science and Technology. I was giving a talk for them, and he was in the audience. We hung out afterward, and I said, well, you know, come visit me sometime. He drove across country in a race car last year. What was it?
That's
a race
right.
car. What race car was it?
It's a Roush 427 track pack Mustang that has been modified to have, I haven't had it dyno tested yet, but it should have approximately 600 horsepower to the rear wheels. And it has a full roll cage, full racing harness. I do race the car out at Salt Lake. Yeah, so it made for a very quick and enjoyable trip out to see Bob. I was able to relax and enjoy his company at his house. He was very gracious, and then I was back home before I knew it.
Oh, jeez, that's great. So you guys, what's
Pat, before you go on, can I just give a very short update on the image feeds?
Please do.
People may have noticed we've had some absolutely fantastic images from the University of Mexico since the beginning of the transit, but they've now lost the sun. So that feed is coming to an end. We're still getting some lovely images from somebody emailed me this. We were talking about pronunciation earlier, and it's Haleakala. Haleakala.
I've been there. That's a great
right,
place.
So we're still getting some lovely images from them, but there is one image that I'd like to point out to you at the moment, which is from Broome in Australia. Anthony Wesley has been imaging since the sun rose for him about 22:30 UTC, and his image at the moment is just—it's lovely. It's a little rectangular image, but it's got Venus there, and it's got a small sunspot, which has got such a lot of fine detail on it. It's just a simple, lovely image of showing us what this event's doing. We are also hoping. We spoke to Mount John Observatory in New Zealand earlier from the University of Canterbury. They were snowed off, but actually they're opening up the observatory, and they are hoping to get online and give us some images a little bit later on. And we're still getting some great images through a couple of really good comets. In the northern hemisphere, preferably. Sorry to anybody who's listening in the southern hemisphere, but you know, we really need a couple of really nice ones up here. And actually, one of the things I'm doing, I'm not telling Pat this, but I'm setting up an ultra-wide camera and telescope for us up here on Mount Tatey at the Slooh Canary Islands Observatory, so that we can actually capture very large objects like that. And I'm talking about kind of the super comets that we've seen in the past. So I would love to see one, because I've actually never seen with my own naked eye.
Well,
really,
what about Hale Bopp back in 1997?
I was working like an absolute navvy, and I didn't get to see it. So.
Yeah, but I don't understand, Paul. It lasted a year, and it was overhead for a whole year. How did you not get to see it?
I didn't read Sky and Telescope. I didn't read Astronomy magazine back then. You know, it's my interest. I said a little bit earlier, I think, when you were away, Bob. My interest in astronomy, really, my childhood interest in astronomy, came back to me with the invention of go-to telescopes, when I could link up a computer, one of my great loves, to something like a telescope. And that was really when I got into it. And I bought a very early Meade LX2 robotic telescope, and on the first night I had the thing controlled by voice. So I just said Slooh to Jupiter, and that was the very first thing I ever saw through that telescope, and it amazed me. So
I think we lost Bob, Pat, or Paul. Sorry.
I bored him senseless, Matt. So Matt, I'm intrigued. How many telescopes were you using? How were you fitting between different views when we had your feed running today? Which I have to say, the images were absolutely stunning. How are you switching between different equipment, and what equipment were you using?
I have two solar telescopes. They're both made by Lunt Solar Systems. One of them is a Lunt 152, which is basically a 6-inch refractor. The other one is a Lunt 60. I have I have a LuCam planetary camera on the 152 and an imaging source planetary camera on the 60. So what I do is I run two pieces of software called LuCam Capture. I run them simultaneously. I have two different licenses for each camera. So that allows me to the smaller telescope, the 60 series. I can see virtually the entire solar disk. So it's a great way to monitor what is happening across the sun. If anything happens, such as a CME, I can quickly slew the larger telescope on and zoom on.
Right. So are these two telescopes on the same telescope mount?
Yes, they're on a saddle mount. They're on a Celestron CGEM mount that has a saddle, and that's how they're attached. They're side-by-side telescopes.
So you're actually taking, you showed us, you had a couple of problems, but you're actually taking kind of live video of the sun through these solar telescopes, these specialist solar telescopes. People shouldn't confuse these telescopes with a normal telescope, which you shouldn't point at the sun. But then you're taking that piece of video, and what are you doing? You're extracting all of the frames from each video? What are you doing to land up with a final image?
Yeah, that's correct. As far as the still images are concerned, I can specify the number of frames I want to take in the video. And of course, I have to be careful because with this type of event, because it's a transitory event and the Venus is moving into the solar limb, I don't want to take a video that's, for example, 1,000 frames long and lasts 5 minutes, because it wouldn't be very easy to make a
blurred motion, will you, over the...
Exactly.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
And so this is what we're seeing. We're seeing in your, behind you, in your Google Hangout feed, we're seeing an extract of one of those videos, are we?
yeah, and it's a good example of what happens when it gets really windy here in Arizona. My solar observatory is a roll-off roof observatory, so the entire roof rolls off, and it's great for solar observing 90% of the time. But today it was very windy, and you can see Venus just jumping around all over the place. But still, I was still able to extract the in-focus frames from this video and stack them and make a still picture and upload it to Slooh.
That's great. Hey, guys, I want to introduce our next guest, Dan Kelson from the Carnegie Institution of Science.
Hello,
Hi, Dan.
Hi.
Dan, how's it going, man?
It's going good. I hope you can hear me. Let me see if I can adjust my volume if you cannot.
I can hear you.
Ooh, okay, great. It's good to be here. I'm actually glad I got to see this through a small telescope this afternoon. Right at 3:06, they set some out. It was nice. So even though I spent a lot of time looking through big telescopes, every once in a while, real astronomy happens right in our backyard. It's great.
I was saying earlier, actually, that this is Paul Cox speaking, that the majority of astronomers nowadays never get to look through a telescope. They're either, using a telescope with a camera on the back of it, or they're operating a telescope which is on the top of a mountain somewhere, and they're miles away.
And while I'm still fortunate enough to go to the telescope to use it, it's true there are big cameras on the back end. And what's worse, I have to say what's even worse is when I go, I would say half the time I forget to go in the dome and actually see the telescope, which is